display case that's at the Greenway, right by the rec center, right where you enter there's a display case right there. I just wanted to get permission on it. I talked to Rick about it, and he said you better take it above.
Now tell me exactly where again on the Greenway?
If you're standing looking at the rec center.
Yes, sir.
And if you turn to the right and look where the Greenway starts,
Oh, yeah.
far side of that area right there.
By the first hole of the disc golf.
Yes,
Sure, yeah.
there's
I
a
got
display
you.
case right
Yeah,
there.
there is, yes.
And there's not much in there, some pamphlets or something, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I thought that would be a good, because nobody knows, if you talk to a lot of the new people that live in the city on the Greenway, and they just think it's Greenway because it's in the woods.
Well, you know, that's a good point. One thing, when you're going the opposite way toward the soccer fields and where it goes off, there is a piece there, I believe, for Tom. But again, where that's beneficial is you have a lot of people who go to the right, not the left.
Right. And like Rick said, he's not sure people really even notice that.
Yeah.
Plaque.
So I think it looks great now. You know, I mean, it looks great to me. Me personally, I'm not against it. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I was just going to say, I think that the shadow boxes, however you want to call them, are underused. So it is
Yes.
something that we need to
They haven't been
either
used in 10 years.
have the
I bet.
department address or somebody to address what should be going in and out of there.
As long as y'all don't put the campaign material in there. We don't want to see
We'll
it.
avoid that spot.
And you have talked to Rick, and he suggests you come here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Can you leave that
Sure.
with Jamie? Just
Sure.
Okay. I think it's a great idea. Let's just see what that process is of moving forward, and we'll let you know if that's okay.
The PC icon right there, if someone takes their phone, it takes them to actually his obituary. That's the best I could find, but it's got some more nice words from you about the mayor, and if anybody wanted more information.
Well, visionary and legend, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, anyway, Tom, that's a great idea, and let us kind of move forward with that, okay?
Okay.
And
We'll
I'd
keep
like
you posted. Any
add
other
one
questions? Yeah,
thing,
go ahead,
Mr.
Pat.
Tom. You know, he's got 2 girls and a boy living, 3 children. And I know them all personally, but we could get in touch so when that does go up,
Get some
that
pictures.
they could come to North Augusta. None of them live here now.
No, they're in Charlotte, yeah.
But Tom Green was one of the finest.
Yeah, he was. Great idea. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah, real nice.
great idea. Appreciate
Like I
it.
said.
Hey, great idea.
Hey,
Yeah.
how you doing, Dave?
All right, thank you. That's great. Mr. Ross Douglas, come on down, sir.
My name is Ross Douglas, live at 101 Cascade Drive. So I can stay focused, I'm going to read it.
That's okay.
I have the
That's good.
tendency
I
to
do it-
wander.
I do it all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. Thank you. I appreciate your respect for that.
All right, so Mayor Williams and commission members, just like anything else, items of business are voted on by the council, BZA, and planning commission, and then seldom thought of again. I thought I'd give you an update, hoping it will help you understand why so many people in the city are concerned about the rapid development of North Augusta from the view of someone who is going through this. When the Knollwood project started, as you know, I, along with neighbors, were strongly against it for various reasons, which ranged from traffic, noise, environmental concerns, as well as how this would affect our property values. The noise has been frustrating. Imagine you're laying in your bed at 6:30 in the morning and you're awakened by the sound of a tree grinder that has been parked less than 50 yards from your house and is run from sunup to sundown while they're clear-cutting the forest. Imagine again, if you will, for months on end, being awakened each morning by the beep, beep, beep of machinery and your house vibrating. Yes, vibrating from the compaction of the soil. Here's a noise issue we've dealt with lately, though, the magnification of sound from our neighbors across the way. Sitting out on our porch or really doing anything outside has been frustrating because we now listen to music coming from across the way from another neighborhood. Imagine coming home every day and that being what greets you for hours when you get out of your car. Imagine every day going out and seeing your car inside of a garage along with the stuff in it and house with a layer of dust. You can't open your windows due to the dust from the clear cutting or them hauling dirt from one end of the property to the other while they relay the whole topography of the land. We've watched for almost a year, Monday through Friday, as dump trucks have run all day from 7 in the morning until sometimes 8 at night, hauling dirt from one side of the property to the other. It was once rolling hills, and of course is now pancake flat. Neighborhood disputes have happened. Everyone on Green Forest has been frustrated by the amount of traffic we had, along with speeding contractors. The topic of speed mitigation devices came up just for conversation on our Facebook page. Those who live on Green Forest want something to help, and of course those who live on off streets don't because they aren't affected by all of this. This has caused a lot of friction between neighbors. Then, when North Augusta Public Safety came in after a speeding contractor drove through flipping people off and wrote tickets, that really got some people cranked up. We've lost some neighbors as well who have lived in our neighborhood for years, but have chosen to move due to the fact they don't want to live in a construction zone for the next 5 years, as there are many phases to this project. To me, that's one of the saddest things to see. People who thought they were in their dream home and neighborhood, but are now moving from the houses that they raised their families because of this. Michelle and I love our neighborhood, our house, and neighbors. But to be honest, we too have considered moving, but have created what seems like lifelong friendships with our neighbors, which makes moving difficult. On the environmental front, water has been a concern for mine from day one, along with other environmental issues. We watched them for over a month try to mitigate a spring behind my neighbor's house because it kept flooding the work area. We had a major pipe busted and flooded the wetland area, which thankfully I would assume the city had the contractors clean up. I have a spring behind my house. I now have a small wetland area because there are no trees to soak up the water. The water from the spring is now running down the road, and I encourage each of you to come see this for your own eyes. Here's my question as well. Is the city liable if they know there's an issue on a piece of property, like this one that's covered in water? The builder builds a housing on it while the city knows of this, and then the homeowner starts having issues with foundation in a few years. In summary, what has come about by this project and many others so far is anxiety. Many are concerned if they could be next and if they live anywhere near open land. I enjoy living in North Augusta. I would ask that the leadership and committee members, especially the Planning Commission, listen to people and think of all these things. To be honest, I feel that when I went before the Planning Commission last year, they had tuned me out before I even started, especially when the chairman asked Mr. Whittingham a question about something that wasn't even relevant to the conversation. I sincerely appreciate your time for these comments and time.
Ross, if you don't mind, can you email that to me, please?
Sure. I'll be
You
glad
brought up a couple specific questions that I really can't answer that we need to find out. So I will tell you, and Pat, you jump in, because I know we've had a couple people come in front of us talking about there was one issue with the dust. Once we let Tom Zezer know about it, that was supposed to have been addressed. There was something else, Pat, you had.
The crack.
So,
I'm sorry.
we're trying to address
Yeah.
things that
Well-
come to us, so anything you put in there, I need to know about.
And this was really not meant to ask for action. This was trying to give you the experience of what we've encountered over the last year. So I'm not asking for action. A lot of it has been taken care of, but it took assistance from the city, which the city
Yes.
was good about doing things like that. Public safety has been good about taking care of some of the speeding issues. But I just wanted to give each of you just an idea when, kind of the pulse of people that I talk to. But then these are the things, because if you don't live it, you don't know it. And actually, a lot of these things I never even thought about when I was discussing these issues with you a couple years ago. I mean, I never would have even thought about, okay, the trees and how they soak up all that water from the springs, or the noise coming from the other side of the whole complex.
I was going to ask you, what is the neighborhood about the music? You threw me there.
I think it's coming behind Lyndhurst.
Coming where?
Well, that's
Oh,
a
he's-
good question. It's coming from either Vireo or whatever the street is next to it. I've spoken with public safety, I think.
I know,
my
just
neighbors
in my
have.
mind, I'm trying to visualize. And what's your address? I can't remember.
Mine's 101 Cascade.
You're 101 Cascade. Okay.
So we're a quarter of a mile away.
Yeah.
But with the removal of the trees, obviously, you have the amplification of noise, no matter what it is, if that's just one thing, but.
Well,
One thing, Mr. Leon Long, and I don't know if
Yes.
you live near Leon.
Yes, I live down the
And
street.
that, matter of fact, he keeps calling back, missing each other. But I know he had the cracks in his driveway, because I saw that. And one thing he has been upset about is sort of the language when they go out to these drivers, when they park their truck right in front of his
Correct.
house. They're not talking very nice to Leon. And I think those kind of things, whoever's the head of the project needs to say, look, you just can't come in here and do these neighbors like this. And that's one of his big issues right now, is the tone of voice and, you know, and you said, like you said, this has been a problem from day one, really. But somehow it's on the go, the project, so
Sure.
we got to go on with it.
Yeah, we
there's
want
no
it to
way.
be successful.
But there
I mean, you're
should
this
be
far into it. It needs to
both
be successful.
sides. You know, we've got to work around this some way.
Sure.
Yeah, so, but I know Leon, one of his big concerns is the way the people talk to him.
Sure,
Okay,
and
so-
you know, again, this is history. A lot of this is history. You know, from the compact, you know, the tree grinder. I mean, that was
Yeah.
about 50 feet behind Leon's house, unfortunately. And when you've got this huge acreage, it's like, why do you park it there, especially when you're going to be running so long in the morning?
Ross.
But a lot of this is history, so I just wanted to give you an idea. I mean, I know there will be more things, but this is like, here's an update.
No, this is good. Let me ask you, are you aware of the fact that we're in the process of reworking our development code?
Yes, I have been told that.
Okay,
And I would hope that it
so
will
let me tell
eliminate-
you where this is important, because I'm gonna give you some homework. This is good, because your advocacy is good. So that is in the process. A couple of these folks are on that committee. So it will be coming to the Planning Commission sometime in the near future. For the Planning Commission, they will take it apart, they will look at it, there'll be open hearings, open meetings, okay? They will make, and we have been working on this for a year, so there's been a lot of input. And what I'm telling you that is, it will go through the Planning Commission process, then it will come to us. When it comes to us, we're gonna have our eyes and chance to make inputs, we'll have public. So I will tell you, we're working hard to make sure the development code that gets approved at some point down the road gets input from everybody. So you're bringing up some good points. So what I'm gonna ask you is, if we need to email you to let you know when that's happening, we need your input, okay?
I'd be glad to.
Because I'm telling you already, we're taking a lot of feedback from citizens, we're taking feedback from developers, we're taking feedback from everybody. So if you've got some valid things, teaching points from Knollwood that we need to be aware of, that at least have the conversation, you need to let us know about it, okay?
Right, and as you know, I mean, my objective is to always bring to you valid,
I know.
not just chit chat,
I
but
know.
actually valid concerns
But
that will
that-
affect other people in the community.
But the reality is, for this entire community, that is where we're going to be able to do the most good and doing things the right way in the future. So we need your input, okay?
You got it.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you, Ross. I
guys for your
appreciate it.
time.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
Can I just
Okay.
add for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So once again, what the mayor was saying, in my opinion, is that when y'all do come to us, the action is happening, and the reason that the redevelopment code is being changed is because people 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago were in front of us saying they wanted some change.
Yeah.
So we do listen. We do listen.
All right, very good. We, Public Power Hour, we are at our time, so, and we only had, so Public Power, we are closed. We'll be back at 6 o'clock. Good evening. It's nice to see everybody. I'd like to call the City of North Augusta regular City Council meeting for June the 5th, 2023 to order. You are welcome to join me in prayer. I will be reading a decree that is about our government from the 7-day prayer cards that were handed out the National Day of Prayer, as well as an everyday prayer for our public safety. So please, you're welcome to join me in prayer. God, we thank you for those in our local government, from the least to the greatest. We speak blessings over them and their families. Cause our elected officials and employees to walk in integrity, to do what is right in your sight for our community, to do what is honorable for the people of North Augusta. And God, we ask you to protect those who protect us. Keep them and their families in your protective shelter. Give them peace. We pray every day protection prayer over all of our first responders. When they are weary, give them strength. Give them your wisdom each day, wisdom to know the right way to go. Amen. And if able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll have our roll call from my left.
Eric Presnell.
David McGee.
Pat Carpenter.
Britton Williams.
Jennifer McCauley.
David Buck.
Kevin Toole.
Item 4, approval of minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the City Council meeting minutes of May the 15th, 2023, or the Leadership Planning Retreat minutes of May the 24th, 2023? Hearing none, they stand approved as distributed. Thank you. Okay, we got a couple proclamations, and the first one, I'm going to ask Miss Carolyn Dixon if she would mind meet me down here in the front, please. How are you? Carolyn is the new president of the council. And yeah, Garden Council, that's right. So what we'd like to do is read a proclamation that I'll give to you like we do each year. Whereas gardeners have a passion for nurturing the beauty and resources of the earth through the planting of seeds, the care of all plants, and the riches of their efforts. And whereas gardeners work to preserve our country's traditional spirit of independence and initiative through innovation and hard work. And whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures sharing our world and their roles in balanced and productive ecology. And whereas gardening serves as a challenging and productive activity for all citizens, those just learning as well as those having years of experience. And whereas gardening promotes a healthy lifestyle that lasts a lifetime, helps reduce stress from other areas of our life, and teaches the rewards that come from diligent efforts. And whereas the North Augusta Council of Garden Clubs enriches our city by maintaining Billy's Butterfly Garden, a scholarship for a North Augusta High School senior, and sponsoring campers for Camp Wildwood. Now, therefore, I, Britton S. Williams, Mayor of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of June the 4th through 10th, 2023, as National Garden Week, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to seal the City of North Augusta, South Carolina, to be affixed the 5th day of June, 2023. This group does amazing things. Had an opportunity to go to their last meeting, and they run a very efficient meeting. They have humor, and they provide you food, so that's always nice. But that Billy's Butterfly Garden, I'm going to make a push for you, okay? If you have not helped out the Billy's Butterfly Garden, they always need help, and it is a beautiful, tranquil place. If you haven't been down there, you need to go. It's fantastic, and they do an amazing job keeping it. So we thank you for that. Anything you want to say?
I want to say thank you for the proclamation on behalf of the council, and I also want to thank the city for all the help they give us and Mr. Keebler, because he and his staff do much to keep those gardens up as well. Thank you.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. Okay. The next proclamation, Elizabeth Hawkins is not here, so I'm just going to read it from the dais. Whereas scoliosis, the abnormal curvature of the spine, is a condition which affects an estimated 6 to 9 million people in the United States. Whereas primary onset of scoliosis is between ages 10 to 15, with females being 5 times more likely to require treatment. And scoliosis can cause pain, reduced respiratory function, and limited mobility in otherwise healthy children. And approximately 1 in 6 children diagnosed with this disease will eventually require active medical treatment. And whereas screening programs allow for early detection and for treatment opportunities which may alleviate the worst effects of the condition, which is no known cause or cure. And whereas raising public awareness, scoliosis is vital, helping children, parents, and health care providers understand, diagnose, and treat this disease and reduce the pain and suffering of those it affects. Now, therefore, I, Britton S. Williams, Mayor of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina, do hereby proclaim June the 23rd, June 2023 as Scoliosis Early Detection Awareness Month. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina to be affixed this 5th day of June 2023. I will just say this. 2 years ago, Elizabeth Hawkins is the first who asked us to read this, to have this proclamation. I don't think we've done it previous to that, but she came here, and if I'm not mistaken, Pat, you know her. I think she either had graduated from Clemson or was at Clemson, but here's a person, a young person that went through this college, and she activated a lot of people behind this cause. They started a couple organizations to be advocates for scoliosis and to educate people. And I know she's not here today, but she is a strong advocate for this, that she deals with it, and it's something that we need to be aware of. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, I want to ask Coach Spears, Coach Smith, and the champion golf team, you boys, y'all come down front. And council, I'm going to have you stand right behind me in the dais so we can... Y'all come up here. We want everybody to see how pretty you look. Come on up. Where's Travis? All right, Coach. Don't be hiding now. Okay. All right. Before I read the proclamation, what we're going to do is I'm going to read the proclamation, and then when we'll call your name back out again, and I'm going to give you the proclamation, okay? And I want you to, if the council wants to shake your hand. I just want to say, first of all, I want to say something about Coach Spears. Travis, you have done an amazing job with these young men, and what you've really done is you've elevated the exposure of this golf team to the community. What you've done on social media, the way you've got it out, grassroots. I mean, people have really followed this team, and that you're a big part of that, so really thank you. You know, in sports, we talk about you always want to have a team to have depth. Right? You want to have a good, strong backup in second team. And people don't realize about golf is a type sport that you really want to have depth, because there are a lot of teams these guys play. They have one player who's a star, who's a stud, but the other second, third, or fourth player might not be as well in golf. What's amazing about this team and why they are champions is in the state champion, you play 5 players and you take the 4 best scores, right? So on the first day, they took the 4 best scores, and one of those individuals who did not have the best score on the first day actually was one of the 4 that was counted on the second day. And, you know, Davis won the state individual in a playoff. That boy from Greenville is Greenville, right? Okay. You know, he and Davis had the same score. But that other team did not have the depth that this North Augusta High School team. And that's why they broke a record, what, 22? Okay, amazing. So let me kind of read this proclamation. And I know Davis was kidding, told Coach he wanted to get a key to the city. We don't do keys to the city. We don't do keys. But to be honest with you, I think the proclamation will be more meaningful to you because you can frame it and it's something you can have, especially because we list all your accomplishments. So, honoring North Augusta High School's 2023 South Carolina Class 4A Boys Golf Team State Champions. Whereas the North Augusta High School boys golf team went undefeated in match play and won the Red Raider Invitational, the Swamp Fox Invitational, the Region 5 AAA Championship, the 4A Upper State Championship, and the 4A State Championship, while setting the 4A state record for the lowest 36-hole score. And whereas this talented group of young men includes this: 3 4A All-Region players. That's Jackson Beggs. Where's Jackson? Raise your hand. Step forward so we can see you, Jackson. Okay, right there. All right, you can step back now. Matthew, where's Matthew? There's Matthew. Step up, Matthew. Thank you. Baxley. Davis Neal. Davis not here, is he? Okay, I didn't think so. All-state players: Davis Neal, Matthew Baxley again, and Luke Johnson. Luke, step forward, young man. And the individual state champ was Davis Neal. Whereas members of the North Augusta golf team were. So as I call you now, when you step forward, everybody can see you. Middle schooler, okay? This guy was unbelievable. The first round of the tournament. Luke Johnson. Step forward, Luke, so I can see you. All right, good. Freshman, Mason McNeil. Where's Mason? Not here, okay. How about sophomores? We got Andrew Baxley. Andrew, fantastic, thank you. Liam Gregory. Stone Harley. All right, Stone, good man. Juniors, Jackson Beggs. Okay, good job. Jackson Griffin. And seniors, Davis Neal, Matthew Baxley, Colin Moore, Colson Brown, Kenny Middlebrooks. All right, Kenny, and Brad Gibbs. All right, Brad, good job. Whereas this team was led by head coach Travis Spears and assistant coach Kyle Smith. And whereas these young men not only brought home the 2023 Class A 4A State Boys Golf Championship for their school and served as ambassador for the city of North Augusta as they played throughout their season, and whereas the North Augusta High School Boys Golf Program has finished, now listen to this, state run-up in 2021 and in 2022, and they got tired of that, and they won the region and state qualifying tournament in 2022 and 2023. Now, therefore, I, Britton S. Williams, Mayor of the City of North Augusta, do hereby respectfully request that the citizens of North Augusta, South Carolina, join me in celebrating and honoring this North Augusta High School Boys Golf Team as the 2023 South Carolina Class 4A State Champions, and witness whereof I have herein set my hand and cause the seal of the City of North Augusta to be affixed this 5th day. Let's give these boys and men a round of applause. Council, y'all need to, Jen, you come here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. I'm going to hand you your proclamation, shake their hands, and you go sit down. How about that? There you go. Let me shake it. Good job.
Thank you.
There you go, sir. See you next year again.
Yes, sir.
There he is. Good job. There you go. There you go. You know what Davis is? Yeah, you want me to? Yeah. Whatever you want me to do. I was gonna make some comment about the fact that you had to count all that stuff and you ran out of things you told me about. I'm gonna let right now. I'm gonna let Kyle. This is the reason Davis Neal is not here. Is I think it's something worthy, Coach.
Davis actually was qualifying for the U.S. Junior Amateur today in Charleston, and he is going to participate in it now. He qualified.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna come back. Like I did. I'm gonna do Captain Lucky. Captain Billy Lucky, come on down, young man. Get down here, boy. Y'all cancel. Y'all need to come around again. I shouldn't have sent you back. Sorry about that. Come on up here. Come on up here. Don't act shy on me now. All right. Captain Billy Lucky has dedicated literally 41 and a half years to our community. His career began in 1980 as a patrol officer. And when I first, after I got elected, I was at a ribbon cutting with Captain Williams and Captain Lucky. And back then, when you got hired, you actually had to walk the street, right? Y'all on a midnight shift, yeah, neighborhood. So you had a beat, okay, which is pretty unbelievable.
Downtown property checks.
And the other thing people don't realize is back then, if you were a citizen, you could call public safety and they'd give you a wake-up call. Unbelievable. In September 1982, he met his wife, Cindy. Is Cindy here? Do y'all want to come up here too? Come on. They said no. You're okay. Cindy was hired as a records clerk, and they got married in 1985, and you have been close to married a little over almost 38 years, right?
This June 22nd.
He did good. All right, yeah. Congratulations. But he was promoted up through the ranks of shift engineer, shift sergeant, shift lieutenant, then in 1991 promoted to captain of patrol operations. So for the last 32 years, he has led the officers under his command. That is a lot of responsibility for a lot of years. And you've done a fantastic job, by the way, sir. He graduated in 1996 from the 186th session of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. In March 2010, he was given the responsibility to start, equip, and command the department's SWAT team. He has served 6 mayors, 5 city administrators, and 4 directors of public safety. That's enough to make anybody want to retire. Goodness gracious. Billy, you love your men. You love this community. You've proven that all these years. We thank you for your service. It doesn't go without notice. You've been a stalwart of this department, and we really appreciate everything. And I've got a plaque here for you. I'm going to let you say something in a minute. So the plaque says, presented to William C. Lucky in appreciation for your dedication and service, December the 8th, 1980 to June the 6th, 2023, from Mayor and City Council, City of North Augusta, South Carolina, June the 5th, 2023. Let's give this guy a round of applause.
Well, this is the part I don't too much care for. I get pretty emotional. The citizens of this community really should be proud of the department. I certainly am. I love each and every one of those guys. And that's about all I can say except thank you. City's been real good to me, and I get emotional.
Enjoy your retirement, man. I appreciate everything, Billy. Really appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead now.
Before all the public safety officers leave, I just want y'all to know Chief and Junior set up a ride-along for me, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to tell you, guys, I have a new appreciation for what y'all do. The ride-along I went on, we were on a medical call. We got to play dog catcher. We got to go check some alarms. It's just amazing the stuff y'all do. You know, there was a car chase we assisted on, and I would just encourage, you know, our citizens when we do the Citizens Academy again to sign up. It gave me, and Junior, and I saw you that night, and I told you, I just cannot believe the different things that we do. I mean, you know, some people are just police officers, some people are just firefighters, but here we are, dog catchers. animal control when our officer isn't there. It is amazing, and guys, I salute you, and thank you for everything that you do.
Yep, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Right. Okay, here we go. New business, planning and development. Item 7, ordinance number 2023-11, amending Article 13, signs of the North Augusta Development Code, Chapter 18 of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina Code of Ordinances. Do you have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley, is there a second? Ms. Carpenter, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, either Ms. Clifford or Mr. Paradise, or both of you?
I will defer any comments to Mr. Paradise, our planning director, as he has drafted this ordinance.
Mayor and council, this ordinance would take a business identification sign and require that it only be allowed to be on the premises where the business is located. It would prohibit off-site signs from being located somewhere else to advertise this business. This came up during the development code rewrite about off-site advertising. The committee decided they wanted to put that in the draft, and staff is recommending moving forward with adopting this because we don't know how long the draft is going to be in process, and so that nothing falls through any holes in the meantime.
Very good. Are there any citizen comments concerning this? Okay. Any council discussion? Any questions for Jim or Tommy? Okay. I will just say is for myself, I think we need this. All I kept thinking about with this was, the reality is in this day and age with GPS, I mean, I don't need a sign to go past one sign to tell me to go to another location. I mean, it's not south of the border. That's all I kept thinking about. South of the border, I'm thinking it's 2023. I just don't think so. To me, I don't have a problem with it, but if there's not any council discussion, then I will ask for a vote. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, item 8, Planning and Development, ordinance number 2023-12 to approve the general development plan for the 177.5 plus acres, the Hive Plan Development on the east side of West Martintown Road between Knobcone Avenue and Interstate 20. Do we have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Carpenter, a second.
Second.
Ms. McCauley, thank you. Same thing, either Ms. Clifford or Ms. Paradise. Anything you'd like to share about this, sir?
I'll turn this over to Mr. Paradise here in a moment, but obviously what you have before you hear from the P&D department is this ordinance, which is to approve the general development plan for what they call the Hive. That's gone through a couple different naming iterations, but to orient the citizens, this is the major development that's the southeast corner of Interstate 20 and Martintown Road, and is bordered by Martintown, Interstate 20, and Knobcone, and would extend all the way back behind the North Augusta High School. And one of the items that may be of interest to some of the citizens here tonight is there is a recommended connection to Pinion Road. And I would tell you that public safety will probably also second this comment that from a public safety perspective, in order to get full coverage within that development for Fire Station 2 to be able to respond within their 5-mile radius for ISO purposes, that connection is required or certainly recommended. So ultimately, I'll turn it over to Tommy for a more comprehensive update on that project, but that's something I just wanted to put out in the front windshield.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the developer, as he went through the progress or the process on the residential side, found that needed to make or wished to make some changes to the PD. Those were major changes and requires that y'all approve those. If you'll bear with me, the developer basically made changes to the plan development narrative to clarify the applicants, to clarify ownership, phasing, traffic volume, and the development program for consistency with the proposed development to the ordinance. They request to delete the requirements for the annexation of tracks D and G to be completed before any development permits because D and G have been annexed. They asked to delete the prohibition of homes to be constructed on concrete slabs and vinyl siding that's not allowed to be used. Hang on. Homes constructed in Track A are not supposed to be constructed on concrete slab foundations, and vinyl siding will not be used as an exterior wall material. They asked to do away with that so that they could use vinyl siding and concrete slab. Planning Commission recommended the concrete slab but not the vinyl siding. Track A is revised to allow quadruplex townhome residential instead of single-family detached residential, with an increase in density from 4 dwelling units an acre to 5.7 dwelling units an acre. This Track A did not allow townhomes prior. Now it would allow townhomes proper. So that is the reason that the Planning Commission went with the concrete slabs to accommodate the townhome construction, but not the vinyl siding. Track B would delete duplex and quadruplex residential units and only allow single-family detached. Dwelling unit per acre would decrease from 2.5 units per acre to 3 per acre. As you're seeing here, A and B are really just swapping places with the type construction. Track C remains single-family residential, 3 dwelling units acre, and it increases from 42.2 acres to 43.9 acres. Track D remains single-family residential, and the density is reduced from 3.3 dwelling units an acre to 2.6 dwelling unit an acre. It also is decreased in area from 18 acres to 14 acres. Track E remains the same as multifamily, and Track F remains the same with residential with retail, restaurant, office, financial. And Track G for green space is decreased from 34.1 acres to 33.2 acres. That is the request that was made by the developer. There is at the public hearing at the Planning Commission, the issue of the Pinion Road connection came up. The Pinion Road connection has always been a part of this project. It was approved back in 2006 when the development plan for the general development plan was done for this. Staff did drive from Knobcone to Martintown from the Pinion Access Road, and that was about 2.2 miles. There's another 1.5 miles from Martintown Road to the back of that subdivision. So without this connection, it would add at least 3 miles to a response. It also, the connection is just good government, efficiency in government. It will provide access for those residents. There'll be about 250 or so single-family homes in there. That will keep the residents of that neighborhood from having to go on Martintown Road and Knobcone to take their children to school. It is consistent with our comprehensive plan, and the basic 6.2.3 of our comprehensive plan and 6.2.4 of our comprehensive plan calls for interconnection of our neighborhoods. And then in the development code, 14.2.3, 14.2.5, 14.8.3.2.2, and 14.8.3.2.4 all go to recommend, not necessarily require, but certainly puts development in that phase for the interconnection. So this is something that typically, as the planning director, I try not to advocate, but this is one that, for a variety of reasons, It's just a public safety issue. And of course, it also gives a backdoor for those on Pinion Road if something should happen to their primary access.
Tommy, before I open up in case council wants to ask you a question, just clarify something for me, and I might misunderstood. On the development program on page 2 of the ordinance, C and D, should it be single-family detached residential, or is it single-family? It has single-family residential. I was thinking that got changed. Should that be?
Yeah, correct. It's all should be single-family detached
Residential. C and D.
Except for E and A.
Okay, so C and D should be single-family detached residential? Huh?
Is that how it is already written? No.
Yeah,
Well,
right now it has residential.
That was the recommendation from Planning Commission, and talking with the developer, he was okay with that. What that does is single-family residential is a broader. Is it single-family attached, which would include townhomes? Or is it single-family detached, which would be individual homes? What that does, it defines it for staff going forward and the developer. We always have to remember this developer may sell it to another developer. And then he knows going in what they're getting.
So we need C and D to say single family detached.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
C and D, we just need to change it to single-family detached residential. And then the only other little housekeeping that I was on page 9, it says this ordinance shall become effective after adoption on third reading. That should be second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure we hadn't changed the policy I didn't know about. Okay, that was the only little housekeeping pieces I noticed. Besides that, I don't know if council has any questions for Tommy or anybody.
Tommy, okay, so I know on the first phase that they asked a variance for, and y'all said, no vinyl siding. Is that the same for the entire neighborhood or just that one section?
It goes back to the general development plan. When the general development plan was adopted in 2006, in parcel A, section A, it put the restrictions of it has to be on crawl space and it cannot be vinyl siding. So that's the only place those restrictions apply.
So
it does not apply to the remainder.
Okay, so the remainder of it, do we know how many floor plans? Just for my curiosity, are we just having a neighbor? Is this a custom neighborhood or is it, just a bunch of?
It will be a tract home type neighborhood. I think the developer is prepared to maybe give you some examples of not what's going to be built, but maybe an idea of what it's like whenever he comes. Whenever he speaks.
Is he here tonight to speak?
He is.
Oh, okay. Well, he can probably answer all of that then.
Yes, sir.
Can't see it very well, but you've got one road that connects onto Knobcone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then this other one, closer to I-20, that's at the traffic light?
There will be 2 intersections on Martintown. One at exit 1 with the traffic light, and then there'll be a right in, right out about where the Waffle House is in that area.
Okay. All right.
And what about Pinion? Now, I know Laurie, she's a citizen that wants to speak on this. But I think that is one concern with that Pinion, right? And I know we said for safety reasons, but just one in and out and then coming through. Has the developer talked to these homeowners in that area?
I'll let the developer speak to that.
Is the developers here, you said?
He is.
Oh, there, okay. I'm just going to ask him then.
Okay. But remember, you've got 3 phases here. You've got the commercial up front. Mm-hmm. You've got the apartments kind of in the middle, and then you have your single family. Your single family is going to be in the rear, close to Pinion. It's about 1.5 miles through that go out the Pinion way. I asked the traffic engineer, gave us the study, and they have their traffic engineer here tonight as well. And I asked him, I got the report, and I said, okay, this looks good, but I specifically want to know about Pinion. how many cars are going to come through Pinion and come from the commercial. And he did not feel like the commercial was going to impact Pinion. It would be all coming from the residential.
Okay. And I know, we voted down with the Kendrick and Martin, and I know that's a different animal, but was due to all the traffic going to be in that section. So it looks like this is really going to increase the traffic there too. But like I said, and then I'm just going to finish up so the rest of them could talk. I know you young men, y'all have said the Yellow Jacket Boulevard. Well, it's Yellow Jacket Way up off, for ambulance purpose. Will that be a conflict, seeing Yellow Jacket Way and Yellow Jacket Boulevard?
Let them answer when we open up citizen input.
Huh?
We'll let them answer.
Oh, okay,
Well,
all
right now,
right.
this is a question
Well,
for Tommy.
all right.
So we're going to open up for citizens and for the developer. So these
Okay, all right, okay, well, that'll be one of my questions.
Okay.
And then, hold on, just a few more seconds. And of course, the traffic to the high school, it's a nightmare out there now, coming in. Of course, I know school's out this week, but that's another thing bothers me, all the traffic, coming in that way. And talking with the homeowners, I am a big advocate that when you coming in with a new development, you don't throw it on these homeowners without talking and discussing, because communication a lot of times helps. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Pat, if I could address, one of the differences is in the type of traffic that will be generated. We won't be having the truck traffic, the 1,200 trucks a day. And also, this development plan's already approved. They could go out there and start moving dirt. We're reviewing the plans for that now. So this is kind of a different animal than what you had down the road.
Well, it's in that respect, but also this young man from Knollwood, we might run into some of the same problems they're running into.
All right, so any other questions for Tommy before I open it up? Okay, at this time, I'm going to...
Mayor, I just have a quick question. Did you guys do a motion with the first and second? I may have missed.
I did.
I'm sorry. I
That's
missed
right. Ms. Carpenter was first and Ms. McCauley was second.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry about that. At this time, if the developer is here, I'd like to ask them to come down, and if you would, so we can have on record, state your name. If you both are going to talk, well, whoever's going to talk, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Bobby Bagwell.
And your address, Bobby.
6566 Reservoir Road, Appling, Georgia, 30802.
Great, thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. And Tommy, thank you for the summary earlier. I represent the three development entities for this project, which we have renamed the Hive. I think most of you are familiar with it. It was referred to for many years as the Hamrick Farms Project. So Stanley Martins is the residential builder for this project. Panther Family Properties is the multifamily developer. And then John Engler, who's not here tonight, is the commercial developer. So I've worked closely with these three groups over the last 2 years on this project. And as Tommy stated, this time, right before as we were developing independent site plans for the phase of development, we wanted to clean up the ordinance. There were a couple of things that just needed to be updated. And as we evaluated the project, we realized that the townhome piece had not been properly identified. So what we did there is basically we took that use, identified Pod A, we're going to call it Phase A, as the better alternative to locate those townhome developments. In doing so, as Tommy described, we took the remaining phases of residential development and identified those all as single-family detached. In the process of doing this, we did all of our thorough traffic studies. We were unaware of the issues, the public concern with Pinion Road until we got to the Planning Commission meeting approximately a month ago. Since that time, our traffic engineer, Dylan Turner, has completed his internal traffic studies based on the revised set of plans. Those numbers actually decreased slightly from the previous maximum density number, and so his traffic study dictates that. We have a summary table that we provided. I assume, did y'all receive that? I, for one, I'm not a traffic engineer, so when it comes into dealing with the specifics of that, I'm going to ask Dylan to come up and speak to that, how that's going to impact the residents along Pinion Road, because we are sensitive to that. We don't want to be the big bad developer next door. We want to work with them any way, the best way possible, and also follow the advice of staff and the city of North Augusta. We're excited about this project, and we want to do the best job we can for everyone. So with that being said, I would like to address something and go ahead and pass out some documents for the council. Eric, you had asked about price points. I was aware that was a concern coming into this meeting, and I do want to reiterate, as Tommy said, on the Section A, which is the townhomes, we agreed to stick with hardy siding on that section. We needed the concession on the slab on grade because typically with the firewall provisions on townhomes, you can't build on crawl space. It just doesn't physically work. So we were okay keeping those hardy. The vinyl for the remainder of the project, that was a pre-existing approval. But what I wanted to demonstrate to y'all is Stanley Martin builds a great quality house, and they intend on having different floor plans, different elevations. Those elevations are going to consist of different materials. They do not build four-sided, bland boxes. That's not their product type. And so what I asked them to do, which Michael provided for me, is a series of elevations. You see the price points in there ranging from, in the 300s all the way up into the 400s. And that's today's prices. We're 2 years out. So those prices, I think, are going to come up in value by the time these products hit the ground. So just want to reiterate, they're going to mix in board and batten. They're going to mix in hardy shakes, architectural details on the front of these houses that you're not going to end up with a entry-level vinyl box. That's not their intention, and it would devalue their project in the long run. So that's certainly not their intention with the quality and being the front door of North Augusta.
This is what the single residential detached will look like?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, not the townhomes, yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we're clear, okay.
Yeah. Yep, there is a townhome
there is,
elevation
okay.
on the very last page of an example of what and these again are concepts.
And Bobby, the reason I brought that up is, we are getting a lot of growth here in town, and I stated this at our study session, I just don't want us to end up with being, a track home community. This looks like a good, I'd say medium. It's not entry level, it's not, high-end custom, but it's right there in the middle, which North Augusta really needs. There's not a lot of medium, what I would call the medium neighborhoods. So, thank you for bringing this and answering that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Bobby?
Would y'all like me to bring Dylan up and let him kind of dive into the traffic study? And I think that'll help
Yeah, that'd be
educate everyone in the
helpful.
room.
Sure. Thank
Okay.
you.
So Dylan is our traffic engineer. He's been involved in this for the last, I don't know how many months, but he recently completed the residential study and has done a thorough analysis of the Pinion Road connection and how that will impact the development.
Dylan, just state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. So Dylan Turner, I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates, and our business address is 115 Fairchild Street, Charleston, South Carolina, 29492.
Nice to have you with us.
All right, so we did a traffic study, and we've submitted it over to SCDOT, to Kevin Weber in his office and IMS. And so that's been submitted to him. We don't have their comments back or approvals back yet. I do want to state that off the cuff here. Our traffic study looked at two options: if we connect to Pinion, and if we do not connect to Pinion. And the moral of the story is, like, from a traffic standpoint, it's not really changing our recommendation or mitigation. So we took the improvements from the Clear Course traffic study that looked at all the retail and all that stuff right on Martintown. And then in the back end, we added in this new the traffic from the residential development. And we were conservative with that because we didn't take into account what's called internal capture. So we assumed all the trips that were coming to and from this residential neighborhood were going to hit the external networks. They wouldn't go to the retail part and never touch an external road. So we wanted to really get an understanding of delay. And really what came of it is we took a previously recommended turn lane at Martintown and Knob Cone. Sorry if I'm not speaking to Mike. Could y'all hear me there?
Yeah.
Okay. So previously approved turn lane, and it's the westbound left turn lane that was previously recommended at 300 feet, and we recommended to extend that to 400 to capture the queuing. And to the point about the school traffic and that, so that intersection is planned to be signalized. And so once that becomes signalized, and that's with the other parts of development, and so once that becomes signalized, the delay's acceptable there.
How do you determine, since, normally with traffic, just study lace it straight down and cars are going, well, we don't have a development there, so how are you tracking?
Yeah, so
how do you
what
come up with that
happened,
number?
what we did with this one, so this one's unique where the Clear Course, so Clear Course is another engineering firm that was hired to do this at the start of the project.
Okay.
So what they didn't include was this residential piece that we're talking about tonight. And so what we did is we took their traffic numbers and their traffic models. So they did counts, and then they trip genned. So they figured out how many trips are going to come from that retail development at exit 1. And then they overlaid that on top of existing traffic, no build traffic with the growth rate. And then we overlaid on top of it. So we by the time we act like our build's there, so whenever we're coming to put our cars on the road, we assume that an intersection is there, and we're projecting volumes to that intersection.
Can I ask a quick question? Which intersection did you say was going to be signalized?
Martintown at Knobcone.
Okay, and that's going to be part of y'all's project or no?
It's part of the other project, so it's not with
That's
this
the
residential.
conditional River Falls.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that.
that's going to be out of that project, yeah.
I just trying to clarify that that
Yeah,
was
no,
not
not
part
as
of
part
your,
of this. We assumed when we did our study that signal.
but it's not part of your improvement scope.
Right, right. Because the way that this actually worked is to trip the DOT threshold for a traffic study, we actually had to have all 3 phases, because the first 2 didn't trip the 100 peak hour threshold. So when we had that 3rd phase is whenever we tripped that. So to be conservative with it, we said, okay, we're here at a build year of 2028, I think it was. And so whenever we do 2028 build, we'll have our traffic on top of that. And we wanted to make sure that the previously approved recommendations still worked. And that's where we found that actually one of the previously recommended turn lanes needed to be extended further than what was previously planned.
So the analysis shows cars who are not at the tail, on the Pinion side, not living there. So if I'm on 5 Notch, you're including, hey, I'm going to try to cut through the Pinion Road to get to
Yeah, to the
Martintown
retail.
versus.
Yep. Sorry, to the
Okay.
residential, not retail. Sorry.
You're not going to want to do that.
So to the
That's all included, okay.
Yep. So we had 2 options. So we had one that assumed we had a Pinion connection and one assumed we did not.
Okay.
So if we go to the Pinion Road connection, we assumed 15% of that traffic volume would be going through Pinion. So Pinion in the morning peak hour, so the Pinion Road connection there would operate at a level service D and have about 3 cars of queuing there, where if we don't connect there, that is a level service C. And then as far as what Mr. Paradise had asked us to look at was how many cars per day and per hour Pinion could see with this residential piece. And it's about 310 cars per day that we project to go through Pinion, which would be about 24 in the morning peak hour and about 32 in the PM peak hour, just with that where it's located and stuff.
Because on that analysis on page 2, you've got 155 daily inbound trips on Pinion and 155 outbound.
That's right. So that's that 310.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dylan?
Yes, sir.
So you said 310 cars per day, so what is it now?
On Pinion, I don't have the daily count, but I can give you the peak hour, but it's relatively low. Let me see if I have an actual count in here. But our peak hour volumes there were 17 in the morning and 11 in the afternoon. So it's low.
It's a dead-end road, yeah. Okay. Good question. Any other questions for him? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Okay, I want to open it up for citizen comments, and I've got 2 already, and I'm going to let these first 2 folks come forward. And let me just kind of give you a little, so what I'd ask is, I'm going to ask Jean to come first, and then Miss Laurie. So what I'd ask for a couple things. One is, if you would keep your comments to around 5 minutes, I am flexible there. And then I know Laurie and Gina are going to come. We'll open up for anyone else who did not fill out a form. That's okay. But what I would ask is if you hear somebody say what you want to say, please don't come up just to repeat it. We are doing this because we want to hear information that you're going to tell us that will help us make a good decision. That's what we want. But if 4 people ahead of you or 2 people ahead of you say the same thing, so just don't repeat. If you've got something new that you think will be helpful to us in making a decision, we want to hear you. So first of all, I want to ask Ms. Jean Morris if you would come forward, please. And once you get down here, if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, I'm Jean Norris with an N.
Oh, Norris.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I
No worries.
apologize, Jean.
That's fine.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Apologize for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone on the council. So I don't know if, I think some of you were there at the last month's meeting.
Give me your address. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, sir. 1013 Pinion,
Okay, great. Thank
North
you.
Augusta, 29841.
Okay, thank you.
I also spoke at the last time that this was brought up. I believe I speak for everybody in our neighborhood. I don't know if you got the copy of our petition, but there's not one person in our neighborhood that is for this connection for Pinion Road to the Hive. So I know that it's been discussed before that the council men and women would like to listen to those on Pinion Road. Every single one of us is against it for that road coming through. So I just wanted to start with that. The one large thing that we need to cover is that we have an original covenant for our subdivision. It was made in 1962. Once again, our neighborhood is established. It is a jewel of North Augusta. It is quiet. You can walk through there and hear the birds, and it will just be destroyed once all that traffic goes through. Our covenant states that, and I have a copy of this that I can give to you all. Sorry, trying to go into the ARN. It's, now therefore, the undersigned lot owners hereby declare that all of the property that they own should upon above described plots shall be held, sold, and conveyed subject to the easements, restrictions, covenants, and conditions as set forth in the documents. For the purpose of protecting the value and the desirability of the land, and which shall run with the real property and be binding on all parties having any right, title, or interest in the described properties or any part thereof, their heirs, successors, and assigns, and shall endure to the benefit of each owner thereof. So we have this. It was done in 1962. It was, it's reinforced. It was forced again after 30 years, 1992. They also have a continuation of that document. It was also notarized and everything. And it's protecting that lot. So our question is, would that be an invalid sale because of the covenant? And would that go towards the individual that sold it, the city, or the developers? As well as the developers, I believe, stated in the last meeting that, yes, they did the traffic study, which I know that somebody else will speak on that. That was little off traffic there. But who's going to be held accountable for that? Because it is going against our covenant. Also, the Pineview Estate, known as Pinion, is the outside of city limits of North Augusta. So what authority would the city claiming that it allows to drastically modify the legal status of the Pineview Estates thereof, the Pinion Road? What compensation would maybe the city of North Augusta and the Hive developer offer to the homeowners and the Pineview Estates for the diminution of the value of our 2 to 5 plus acres that we have? We know that a lot of water runoff is going to happen. as well as all the traffic. We built our home in the Rapids. We moved to Pinion solely for the quiet, for the safety of that. What is that going to happen? And again, the developers before had said that they don't need that access through Pinion to make a successful project. And then also, we would like to know what credible real estate appraisals have been performed to determine the impact on the valuation of the homes on Pinion. Also, why is there no assessment of the adverse impact on the peaceful and quiet environment that the homeowners that have had for the past 50-plus years? I understand that this was originally so-called had in 2006. Well, in 2006, I was graduating from college. So I didn't have this property. I now do. I'm very proud of it. My husband is very proud of it. So are our children. However, I wasn't aware of that in 2006. I also know that the traffic study was not done then, and it wasn't also approved for that part. So what alternatives, if any, did the City of North Augusta consider to provide additional ingress or egress to the Hive development without impacting the homeowners? Keyword, without impacting the homeowners of Pinion. And lastly, what are our any legal rights for appeal? Because I know that several of us in the neighborhood, we would make an appeal for legal rights if we needed to.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate
Yes, sir.
it, Gene. Yeah, okay. Ms. Lori Hamilton, come on down. That's okay, take your time.
My name is Laurie Hamilton, and I live at 1004 Spruce Court, North Augusta, South Carolina, 29841. And I have been a property owner in Pineview Estates since 1992 when the covenants were redrawn up, and you'll find my signature on there. The covenants state on page 51B that the blocks may be subdivided, but not in less than 2-acre lots. The lot that was owned by Mr. LeGrand Flake, he owned that lot, the lot beside him where his house currently sits, and the 34 to 36 acres, which was behind his house that was sold to the development for the hives. By selling off the strip for the driveway coming into Pinion from the hives, it's a violation of our restrictive covenants. And to me, that's a violation of the sales agreement. If the closing attorney did not make them aware that there were covenants, then there can be action taken there as well. Mr. Backwell said he didn't know about Pinion Road until the last planning council, but he and I actually spoke probably a week or so before that. And the Hives developers were not even aware that our subdivision is not in the city of Augusta. We are not part of the city. We are county. So first, we have a violation of covenants. Second, we have the city trying to enforce movement and development into our neighborhood that we aren't part of the city. I think the traffic report that was done by their independent traffic control person is way underestimating what's happening here. If you were there in the mornings when everybody's trying to get out to take their children to school, can you imagine what's going to happen when there are 400 homes coming through Pinion and then down to Five Notch? And also, I was just made aware that the acreage across the street from the entrance to Pinion, all that acreage has been sold and will be developed into homes and will furthermore congest that area. That area at Five Notch, where it intersects with Pinion, is down to a 35-mile-an-hour rate. And at the school, which is Mossy Oaks, it goes down to 30 when it's during school let in and let out. Traffic backs up. You have to be driving like Mario Andretti to get in and out of there. you take your life in your hands. And I'll tell you what, if I was one of those people that's buying one of those homes, I'd be using pinion to cut through rather than having to go all the way up to a commercial area and then come around back to knob cone to get where they're going. I understand that Mr. Paradise is concerned about alleviating some of the excessive traffic on knob cone, but what he's taking away from knob cone, he's giving to us, and we don't want it. I mean, I've spent my whole adult life paying for the house that I live in so that I could live in an area that was coveted and quiet and convenient. I don't think they've stopped to consider that. Also, I understand what the police and fire officers are saying as far as time getting to and from those different areas of the neighborhood. Look at the other neighborhoods. How long does it take to get to the back of Barony? How long does it take to get to the back of Rapids? It's no different. But what is becoming a better access for knob cone, letting school in and out, especially when you're adding a commercial track right in the same area where school lets in and out every day. No other houses are going to use that. They're going to come through the pinion access and cut through to 5 Notch. I think we will end up with the same kind of problems that Knollwood is having, where if you look at the topography, we are downhill from this construction. We are going to have water runoff. We are going to have construction runoff. We are going to have damage. We're all on wells. What's that going to do to our drinking water? You know, the EPA doesn't want to test anything until there's a problem. Well, we don't want to be the problem that they have to come out and test, because that much traffic coming through can break down an infrastructure that was completed 60 years ago. We have residents that built their homes that are still living in their homes from when this subdivision was started. So we have elderly people that get out and walk in our subdivision. And now, as those elderly people leave our subdivision, we are getting young people with families who are out pushing strollers and walking their dogs. They don't have to go to the Greenway to do that. We have a neighborhood in which we can do that. Now, in the last planning and zoning meeting we had, I spoke with Mr. Bagwell when he said that they had no interest in pursuing the roadway from Pinion to their development. And the suggestion that we came up with that was comparably agreed upon was that why not make that a emergency only access? If public safety is concerned about getting to the rear of the new subdivision quickly and want to use Pinion and legally have an access across what Mr. Flake sold, breaking the covenant, why not make that just for emergency vehicles? Why not have a knockdown gate or a padded keyboard gate that public safety can use? So there won't be public and neighborhood traffic up and down our road all day. Where his estimation was so low about the traffic, yes, it was low, because we're a 30 household neighborhood. How much traffic are you going to see with that? That's why we like it. We don't want it to increase tenfold or 1,000-fold. Just to increase to 300 a day would severely affect the way all of us get in and out to our homes. And that needs to be taken into consideration. We don't want to be bad neighbors either. But this seriously impacts every person that lives in our neighborhood. And I think if Mr. Flake were here today and had talked to the neighbors before he passed 2 weeks ago, it would be different today than what it was when he made this decision in 2006. There weren't as many choices. There weren't as many subdivisions coming in. There weren't as many ways for this kind of construction to impact our community and our neighborhood. And I think that we should be considered in that. And we have some neighbors that are talking legal action to enforce our covenants. We don't want it to come to that. We are willing to consider alternate choices, but let's face it, we're going to end up just like Knollwood with the trucks coming in and out because it's closer than going through all the commercial area. So I appreciate y'all listening to this, and I hope that you will think about if it was your neighborhood and if you had worked your whole career to pay for that house and think that you're going to stay there, and now maybe I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Appreciate it. Are there any excuse me? Are there any other citizens who would like to share? All right, sir, if you'll come down in the blue. I'm sorry. And if you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Larry Beggs, and I live at 1011 Pinion Road.
I'm sorry, Larry? Larry
Beggs, B-E-G-G-S.
Okay.
Yes, I live at 1011 Pinion Road.
Okay.
In addition to what these ladies have shared, I would echo what they have shared, but in addition to that, we've only lived there 3.5 years, so we don't have the history that others have. But we do have 4 special needs children, and even assuming the traffic study is accurate, and we'll go with that, it's roughly tenfold or whatever it is, addition of traffic in that area. There's no, as one of the ladies alluded to, there's no stoplight at West 5 Notch to there, and if you try to get out from Pinion Road going left in the morning or afternoon, you know, with school at Mossy Creek, you got to get across the traffic and people coming out of there. That's a very difficult thing. But if there's more traffic, I didn't hear anything about a traffic light being put there. Now I know people don't want one. There's one right up at Pisgah Road, but with that type of traffic pattern, that's a big deal. But the 4 special needs children we have are young. They're from anywhere from 9 to 13, and they don't, quite frankly, they don't understand the risk associated with going out on that road. And right now, with the limited traffic, they can generally go out, and we live, you know, from our driveway, you can go out into the court there at Evergreen, but they can also go out on Pinion. And there's a lot of walking traffic, as these ladies have alluded to. But with that kind of traffic flow coming in there, I'm concerned that the traffic flow will not be going at a safe speed. There's no speed humps that I've heard of coming in there. And also, there's no stop sign or anything else at the Greenway, which crosses at the border of our property. And I know that there's a stop sign for the pedestrians on the Greenway, but I can tell you firsthand they don't do it, a lot of them, especially bike riders. And so I'm always trying to be careful and look for them, but some of them are coming across there at a pretty high rate of speed on those bicycles, and even walking may not be paying attention, and that's a safety risk in my view. I can see something happening there if we're not careful on those kind of things. So I'm concerned about the safety of the pedestrians, not only in the subdivision, but on the Greenway, getting in and out of there, in addition to what these other ladies have shared. And I just wanted to share that too, because I don't know if that was, I didn't hear anything about that covered in the traffic analysis, but that's a very important element. It's not only the addition of the traffic, but the speed of the traffic and the pedestrians and the, you know, children out there playing, and especially with our 4 younger ones. So I just wanted to share that and open that up, and hopefully that's given some consideration in this project.
That's very good information. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I think gentleman in the green, come on down, sir.
Thank you for the time, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. And council, I'm Jeff Wheeler. I reside at 2004 Wellington Road, and wanted to take an opportunity just to mention a few things as you all consider the amendments to this proposal. So most of the folks tonight have spoken on the connection to Pinion Road. I would offer one piece of advice on that. If you do have to end up approving that, maybe you limit that so that it does not include commercial vehicle traffic or something like that, so that it's just residential or single-family vehicles and whatnot versus commercial traffic. I think that was maybe considered on Walnut Lane years ago. I used to live at a development up there before we moved to Wellington Road. My questions and comments were more specifically in regards to Tract A and Tract B as a resident of the even side of Wellington Road, which if you're driving down Wellington Road is on the left side. That the swapping of those tracks with the townhomes going from Tract B to Tract A then puts two-story townhomes in the back of my yard. I've not seen the samples that Mr. Bagwell had provided. He was very gracious when I spoke to him after the last commission meeting. But one of the requests I would have is that maybe you consider why the original development plan had single-family homes there and it was on footers rather than slabs. I remember seeing a rendering, or maybe not a rendering, but a plan at one point where it seemed like there were larger single-family detached homes and larger lots in that particular part of the development. And I wonder if the intention were those to be larger single-family homes, maybe at a higher price point, bless you, that were a little bit disconnected from the rest of the development. I know sometimes you see that in master plan communities where you may have homes of varying prices in different areas of the neighborhood. I don't know if that was the intent or not. That was included, or that was proposed and approved way before I was a resident. We moved in 2017. But I was just curious, might that have been one of the considerations? And if so, do we need to maybe rethink swapping those single-family detached and the townhomes? Because as it stands right now, the townhome development in Tract A would be along the interstate, and the single-family homes would be in my backyard on Tract A, which we were aware of when we bought the property and we're perfectly okay with. The other concern that I have is you're talking about a density increase of 40 to 50%. You know, you're going from, I think 4 to 5.7 was what Mr. Paradise had mentioned. So that's a 40 to 50% density increase literally in my backyard. If you look at some of the diagrams there that show the lot lines and the proposed cul-de-sacs and whatnot, the one cul-de-sac actually comes closer to my personal property than anybody else's. So I do have concerns about two-story townhomes literally being within view of my master bathroom window. There's not a whole lot I can do to tell a property owner how they can and can't develop, but I would certainly make the suggestion that if there's any way that we could keep the townhomes and the more dense development closer to the interstate, I would certainly prefer that. And I do speak for the neighbors in Wellington on that subdivision, some of the ones on Knobcone, but specifically on the even side of Wellington, just on the left side going down, who are most immediately impacted by that. Now, if the council does decide to move forward with approving slab foundation, townhomes moving over, and then keeping the hardy plank proposal, I would kindly request that you consider some type of a barrier, just given that increased density, that you consider some type of a barrier at a minimum where the townhomes are going to be moving, where the single-family detached homes were going to be previously. What that would do for us is obviously, you know, provide some type of a sound buffer. We're going to have that 50% higher cars, people, homes, everything right in our backyard. It would obviously help with some of that sound. It would help with some of the commotion. It would certainly help with view as well. I certainly don't have an issue with looking out my window and seeing a single-family home. A number of townhomes in a cul-de-sac, you know, feet off of our back property is a completely different thing, and certainly was not something that we were aware of when we bought the property. You know, I think that there's something that you have to consider, and maybe the city is at a pivotal point where, to your point, Mr. Presnell, you mentioned that, you know, the city's growing all the time, and I think you had asked about maybe there was concern, are we building a lot of tract homes or you know, single-family entry-level homes, or do we want to target more custom homes? And I think you have to ask yourself, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now, do you want to be the next Columbia County Evans, or do you want to be the next Grovetown, where you have a lot of these spec and tract homes where, you know, they're building, you know, 5 to 7 or 8 floor plans, and you're kind of picking out, you know, what do you want your exterior color to be, and how do you want your paint and things to be inside? Or do you want custom homes that typically, in my opinion, hold their value more over time? I mean, you've got the golf course development that's going to be going in a little further down the road on Martintown on the left, and I think you're at a point where, if you're talking about future development, could you echo what's going to happen in the next county over and offer higher property homes? I mean, we've got the Rapids, we have the Barony, we have Hammond's Ferry. So I think we've made, you know, over the years, over the decades, some fantastic strides in higher end development, and it would be great to see more of that in the city of North Augusta. I mean, if you look at Aiken-Augusta Highway between North Augusta on up to Aiken, they're doing a lot of development there. Stanley Martin is. And, you know, there's a lot of mass grading, vinyl siding, slab homes are taking place there. Let's do that kind of development over there. Let's maybe preserve the city of North Augusta for a little higher end custom homes. The other thing that I would mention that it may be good for the city council to look into, I do know several people that are residents in Claiborne, which is a newer development of Stanley Martin. They did mass grading there. And one of the issues that you have with mass grading is when you come in and you create these terraces, all you're doing is diverting water from one terrace to the next terrace to the next terrace. And you can go to some of these homes, and some of these homes are literally 50, one terrace is 15 or 20 feet above the next terrace, and we're looking down in the yard behind them. And I know two people specifically whose homes were built by Stanley Martin. The development was graded. Those homes were built, and they have drainage problems where there's now standing water in their backyards. And so they were told during the development, well, let's let the property settle a little bit. It'll probably soak in over time. That didn't happen. Now they're on the hook for $10,000 to $20,000 French drains that they're having to put in their backyard. So I think that's something to consider when you talk about mass grading and how you're altering that topography. If it's not done exactly right and it's not caught until a little later down the road, you're basically shifting that issue to a property owner versus going with the current topography of the land, minimal grading, and you build on footers like they have in the Rapids, like you have in Savannah Barony. And I think you should consider some of those types of things as you approve that. So I think those are all the specific comments that I have. But just to reiterate, I would kindly ask you to reconsider swapping those two tracks for the specific reason of let's keep townhomes and the higher density closer to the interstate. Let's keep single-family homes adjacent to current detached single-family homes would be better. I think most of the neighbors would be supportive of having other like neighbors beside us. But if you do approve that, please consider, and I don't know if it would be proper to put it in the development plan or where you would capture it, and the developer did seem supportive of this, is having some type of a barrier, whether that's a wall, whether it's a fence, plus vegetative, but something to both buffer the sound and the traffic and noise and view and all those things that are going to be impacted by the folks on the left side of Wellington. So I think that's all I've got. Certainly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you brought some good points up.
Thank you.
Sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Oh, I only saw you're in the green. Either one, doesn't matter.
Hi, my name is Pamela Stewart. I live at 1901 Lodgepole Avenue. And I think everybody here already knows me because I've been before council and written a number of letters about my concerns about all of the traffic around the high school in the afternoons. And so I guess I more had a question was, did the traffic study that was conducted, did it look at the situation on Lodgepole in the mornings between 7:30 and 8:15, and in the afternoon when school is out between 3:30 and 4, because we're already locked in with traffic. And you're talking about adding another entrance or egress into Knob Cone right there just within a couple of blocks of the high school. And we already have a terrible traffic situation there. So I just wanted to bring that up and ask that question. Did you look at the situation during high traffic areas, and how is adding another egress onto Lodgepole going to impact that?
Okay, thank you. My guess is they did not, because that's so farther down is my yeah, okay. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. In the blue.
My name is CJ Rachels, or Carolyn Rachels. I live at 1004 Evergreen Court, which is off of Pennon. I did not come here prepared to speak, but I feel led to. I want to echo some of the things that some of the other folks have already said. But But I know it was asked of y'all before, have y'all driven down through our neighborhood and seen what kind of peaceful area that is? And you see the traffic that comes across the greenway. It's a constant flow of people on bicycles, walking, kids. You already have a huge concern on Pisgah. We do not want that concern on Pennon as well, bringing that in. If you have a neighborhood that's coming in across the street from Five Notch from the Pennon entrance, how much more is that going to impact if people are driving through Pennon? I understand the studies, I get that, but people are going to use that as a cut through. Let's be honest, that's how they're going to see it. They're going to cut through that area to get back and forth. Another question I have, with this new development, has anybody done the school studies to know how much more influx of students to the schools are going to come in? Because that's just going to create even more traffic with school buses coming through the neighborhoods, back and forth to the school systems as well. North Augusta High School is our only high school for North Augusta. So how much more is that going to impact our neighborhood? I've been a resident of North Augusta for 46 years, and to be honest, I'm not liking how all this is coming on top of our neighborhoods. We love it here for the quietness, and I know y'all have made mention before about keeping that hometown feel. You're building up all these townhomes. That is not a hometown feel to all of us North Augusta folks who have been here all our lives. And then there was a talk about connectivity and neighborhoods. Well, the Rapids and Rushing Waters and other developments do not have that connectivity. So why should Pineview Estates have that connectivity? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Hey, how you doing? Take your time coming down.
Paul McCarty, I live at 2018 Wellington.
Speak in the microphone, Paul.
Oh, sorry. Been there for 12 years now. We, like some of the folks on Pinion, bought a house with plenty of property barrier around it. They're all 2.5 acres, something like that. And hoping that we'd have some privacy in the backs of our yards. I personally have a 700-foot margin on my back, the back of my property that's going to run right into section D, I think it is, and where Pinion and all is. I would appreciate some sort of barrier there too, because my property line is about 80 feet from my wife's bathroom window. And we have big windows because we had deer to look at and nothing else. The other thing is, while I appreciate all this, and Britton, you and I have talked about changes coming and growth and all those things, we need that. I don't like the idea that the 12 folk on the even side of Wellington, Jeff starts it and I end it. We've got a pretty big section of property there. They're not tract homes. They're not the highest end homes, but they're, you know, everything's worth at least $300,000 there. Mm-hmm. And we're not even mentioned in this project. It's all pillion and it's all knob cone. But when you go down Wellington, you're taking the backyard out of at least 12 families. And I just would like for that to have some consideration as far as a barrier goes.
Very good,
Fair
Paul.
enough?
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Council discussion.
I had one question. Yeah. So far, the property where it's connecting to Pinion from the backside of D, when was that acquired? The connector part, piece for the road. Is that part of 2006 or is that recent?
David, I'm not actually sure. I know that PD that we basically inherited was, I think, approved and adopted in 2005, 2006 range.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say some of the original property acquisition may have dated back to like 2002, just based on my history of the project. I don't know
So
exactly.
this connection was in the 2006 PD.
It was shown in the 2006 plan that we
Okay.
basically inherited. So
That's
it's
okay.
been a part of the master plan when we acquired the property.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay, thank you.
But at what point it was sold from Mr. Fleck, I don't know that when that transaction occurred.
Okay, well, you answered. It was in the original PD.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The mayor had asked me to basically respond concerning the issue of restrictive covenants in a subdivision. And there's no way I can give you an opinion on that tonight. Restrictive covenants, if they are properly done, if they've been properly renewed, whatever they say will control. But without spending a little time looking at them and reviewing them, there's no way I can tell you that they do or do not allow for this. And, I can do that. I will say this, that if the restrictive covenants do not allow, then that is a matter between the homeowners and the development with the covenants against whoever has bought the piece of property that you're dealing with. The covenants give the homeowners in the subdivision certain rights, and if they do not allow what has been done, you can pursue that. If they allow, or if they have expired, it's a different situation. So if something came up with that, that would be a private action between individual landowners. The other question that you asked about if the council were to approve something that you didn't agree with, what your appeal process was. Well, an appeal to a decision by council as to something of this nature would be the Court of Common Pleas in Aiken. That's where it would be ultimately resolved.
Well, is there any other solution? I mean, any other road that you could cut through that wouldn't affect Pinion? I mean, it seems like this is sort of a big deal to the homeowners, and I understand why.
Yes, ma'am. We looked at alternatives. Unfortunately, we don't have access to another public right-of-way through our property to access. I can give a little bit of history. This will answer the gentleman from Wellington. There was an alternate access shown, and this ordinance cleans up. There was a phase called Phase G, and it was a piece of property that connected to Knob Cone to Phase A. That property was never closed upon, so therefore we cleaned it up in this PD narrative. We don't own that property. That was the only other connection to a public right-of-way within the development. So our connections are to Martintown, to Knob Cone, and then the Pinion Road connection was shown in the original master plan. But we evaluated, is there another alternate route? And we simply just don't have any other viable options to get to a right-of-way to make a connection.
And what happens if this does not pass tonight to the project?
Well, in regards to the connection or how it impacts our development?
Well, both.
Both.
Yes, yeah.
As I understand it, Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, that the connection is shown as part of the master plan from 2006. So we're still required to make that connection with or without your vote for approval tonight. That's something we're willing to work with North Augusta on, but it's shown as part of the plan. We're required to follow the plan. But we'll work with North Augusta and the citizens however we can. But it doesn't change the fact that connection is currently shown and it's our understanding required to be made.
So even if this failed tonight, so it's not, it moves on. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's
All
my
right.
that's my understanding, and Tommy, you can clarify.
All right.
What you're voting on tonight has to do more with cleaning up the PD narrative and our request to make the declaration on the townhomes and the other language within the PD.
Billy, let me ask you this. Jeff brought up a point I thought was interesting. He's the only one that brought it up about, tell me the thought process about putting track A, the comment of moving track A to B, which is closer to the highway, and the single detached B closer in A.
Yes, sir.
With the idea of resident to resident. So kind of talk me through, was that under consideration? Is there a reason with the topography? I mean, what is it, what density? I mean, what's the deal with that?
That was driven by looking at the site, evaluating topo for one. Topo was a major factor in driving that. And as I was saying earlier about Section G, and again, we don't know the full history from the developer standpoint back then, but Section G, we understood those, we think those covenants were put in place because it was kind of a standalone pocket neighborhood in itself when Section G was a part of the development plan. When that Section G was no longer part of our plan, it basically landlocked Section A because it's bounded by 2 creeks. So for us to get to A, we've got to put in a culvert to access A, and the density of the acreage of A was ideal for the townhomes to be located there. Intermingling the townhomes within the Phase B single family just did not make sense with the lay of the land, the topo. Phase A made more sense from a physical, engineering standpoint to locate the townhomes there.
Okay.
And just to also follow up with his concern, we spoke after last meeting, and I've talked with Stanley Martin. They'll be glad to. We're going to leave as much natural buffer in place as we can. Be glad to do that during the planning stage, and also they'd be glad to incorporate a vegetative buffer after the commencement of construction as well. It's 2 stories. I can't deny that you're going to see some form. You're going to see the structure. I can't disguise it 100%, but a vegetative buffer is something they're willing to work with.
And the barrier piece, Tommy, fits within our code, right, as far as what they want to do if they do that?
Yes, sir. I would, if I might mention, the original PD did not limit that area to single-story detached houses. So you could have a 2-story house built there instead of a townhome.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Bobby. This is not for Bobby, but the question, see, I don't know if it was Jeff or it might have been Larry, I thought, very good. So, how we have and that's DOT, I know, but when you're coming down Pisgah, where you have, depending on when you're crossing Greenway, it triggers a yellow flashing light on Pisgah, okay? When you turn on Pinion, you go right, he's right, Larry, one that you made that comment, you go right over the Greenway. So my question is that something as a city we could look at as far as putting something in place like that to alleviate the concern he has about the speed, which I thought was a valid point?
That is a raised crossing, though.
Now, I'm talking about the piece that's there in the front part.
The Greenway, when it goes over Pinion, it's a raised section.
But when you first turn on the Pinion, that right before you get to the Greenway, I thought that piece was, I thought it's past that. I thought first, it has our sign there. I thought that first piece was city.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why that sign is there. Okay. Okay. Yep.
But the
Very
crossing of the Greenway over
That's a
Pinion,
county thing then, okay.
the crossing is a raised crossing. So it already causes you to slow down. It's a speed hump.
It is raised up there?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a speed hump.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Okay, okay. Okay. I'm sorry? Well, you can come on, ask me, ask this. Come up, come on.
Thank you. I had a question for the developer, again, Gene Norris. I know that at the last meeting, sir, you were here, and it was stated from the developer that they did not need it and that they were fine with not having the connection with Pinion. So I'm curious as what happened between that meeting of saying that you didn't need it and that you did not, that you could give it up, to now saying it's always been there and it's going to be there regardless. So thank you, sir.
All right,
That was my question.
yeah. That's our, because that's how we look at citywide as far as the comments that Tommy had mentioned. You want to add anything to that?
Well, I can
Yes.
say from that comment, what I intended by that statement was we have connection to other locations if the city decided that we did not need to make that connection. We had alternate connections for our residents to get in and out. So that's when, when Pinion Road was up for debate, whether that connection be made or not.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
That was also before we'd been contacted by public safety, and the importance from the public safety aspect. While it was a public safety issue, we did not know the response was coming from Station 2 and the impact that not having that connection would make on the residents in that part of the subdivision, and how it could affect their homeowners insurance as far as their fire insurance and that type thing. So that there was some news that came out after that meeting that I think both reflected on how the planning department looked at it and the developer looked at it as being more important.
I'd also like to say, at that point in time, we did not have the completed traffic study yet to really know how low that number would be as well.
Jim, this might be a question quick for you. Is this the proposed area, not proposed, if we needed to add another station at some point, is this roughly? Approximately.
So I'm going to give you a good city attorney answer, which is maybe. And so there may be some options for Station 4 down the road. But my concern right now is, number one, the timing of that station, because the funding source for that would be out of Capital Project Sales Tax 5. The cost of the last fire station was over $3 million. My guess is the next fire station probably will be closer to 4. So you have to build capital through the sales tax in order to get that, and then the council would have to vote that as the number one priority over all others in order to accelerate potential movement of that. And then the second challenge that I think we have right now is we have not yet procured land for Fire Station 4. So I have some good ideas, at least I think they're good ideas about where that fire station might go, but we have not procured any real estate, nor do we have city property near Exit 1 that we could put a fire station on today. So yes, if a fire station was put into the Exit 1 corridor, that would potentially alleviate some of the problems. The issue is going to be the timing of this development. It was likely going to be well in front of a fire station inclusion, but I understand your question.
David, you got some questions?
All right, so a concern I have, so we're talking about the hive going through Pinion, but there's also a potential development across from Pinion on 5 Notch. So my concern is traffic right there. I mean, are we talking about maybe putting up, a traffic signal or anything, an intersection between the two neighborhoods or something like that?
And where would that be with light right now at Pisgah and 5 Notch? I mean, that would only be what, block down?
That's a valid point.
So
that's
grant you, if DOT approves it,
Yeah, so, that's something at this point, that hadn't even gone through, you hadn't gotten any of, you're talking about something, it's a valid point, the situation, it's out there, it hasn't gone through planning, so that you could say that about, anybody's gonna buy a property. So that's where we gotta go through DOT, so, I think that'd be hard for us to use that as a reason tonight, but yes.
So I got
issue.
Question. I guess it's for Tommy. What are our options? So if we were to deny it, as we've already stated, it effectively reverts back to the original PD, and that connection exists. If we approve it, obviously that connection exists. Do we have an option to, because none of that is in front of us. Technically, what's in front of us is really more pertinent. What's directly in front of us is what's more pertinent to Wellington, which is the movement of those properties and the buffer between those properties. Do we have an option now if we all just decided that we wanted to change the PD? What are our options as a body right now to try to deal with some of these concerns and some of these, I think very valid issues raised?
As I told the mayor earlier today, I'm going to duck that question.
Well, that's no help.
And send it over to Kelly, because the developer has approval for X. He has come in and asked for X to be changed to Y. And now another issue has come in, and it's not going to be yes or no to Y, but Z.
Just one clarifying, Kelly. One of them, I mean, correct, the connection is Z. But the additional buffer, and Bobby, I know you and I trust you that it'll happen, but the buffer between the back ends of Wellington that's been asked for that you all are, I mean, is that something that we could add in? Because that is directly, to where we expand that buffer or provide some sort of
As a
additional
condition.
buffer, as a condition. I would think, yes, sir.
So we can do that. We're clear to do that. Kelly's going to have to answer what we can do about the road. Okay.
Well, and I was sitting here thinking that right now, and this is for the developer, you've got approval to build without the Pinion connection. Is that accurate?
No.
The Pinion connection is part of the PD that was originally approved.
That was originally done, okay. All right, my concern was, I mean, it's not for us to decide tonight, but if it's approved with that, and legally he doesn't have the right to use it, and I have there's no way I can say whether you do or don't. I mean, it's been, the allegation has been made that the purchase of the lot that I guess you're using for access to Pinion, that it could potentially violate a restrictive covenant, which you could be prevented from using it. I'm just wondering if that's something we need to have. Has that ever been raised to you, that issue? Okay, and of course, I've never heard anything about it till tonight, but I'm just wondering if that is a real consideration that maybe, but obviously, if, for example, if this was passed tonight, it's first reading, that doesn't mean that it will, that would give us time to check on it and determine what the potential would be there. And again, I'd say it's probably for the developer more to determine that than for the city. That's not really our decision. That if it became a problem, that's the court of common pleas. But that's for you to satisfy yourself on doing that.
So Kelly, that aside, if we as a body decided, and I'm struggling with what the right answer is here because I understand the public safety issues, but I absolutely understand where they're coming from as well. Do we have the ability to make that decision because that PD's already been approved, or I mean, what is our power as a body to deal with that?
I guess what I would say, if it has been approved with that connection, and the developer has the legal ability to make that connection, that right's already there. And I'll make sure Tommy agrees with me on that. But if there's a plan that is approved that they can build on, that connection was approved, as the city's position is, we couldn't stop that.
And so why are we voting on it tonight?
We're not.
I was going to ask Tommy to recap once again.
I mean, why are we doing all this big discussion for something we're really not even voting on?
Remind us of the exact changes that we're actually in front of us tonight.
All right, sir. If you bear with me, here we go. He updated the plans as far as the excuse me, narrative with the applicants to clarify the ownership, phasing, traffic volume, and development. Basically updated all the names in there. He deleted the requirement that tracks D and G be annexed before any development permits. That's because they've already been annexed. He wanted to move or do away in track A with the requirement that it be on crawl space and be no vinyl siding. He requested that track A be revised to allow quadruplex townhomes and residential instead of single-family detached. And the change in density, track B would be duplex and quadruplex only, and that would be, track B would delete the duplex and quadruplex residential and be single-family attached. Track C would be single-family detached. Track D would be single-family attached. Track E remains the same as multifamily and no change in Track F. And G, and green space is decreased from 34.1 acres to 33.2 acres.
Tommy, just let me break it down a little easier.
All right, sir.
If they had never gone to the planning commission, the bottom line is we have had a plan, a PD in place since 2006, right? Okay. For them to begin to finally do business, they have to present a general development plan.
Yes, sir.
That's what they're doing tonight. It just so happened that prior to coming to us, they went to the planning commission because they wanted to make some changes in that development plan. So the point is, we're doing this so that, quote, Hamrick Farm, which is now the Hive, can begin development. So they went to the planning commission and said, hey, so if they had never gone to the planning commission, they'd still be in front of us for approval.
Well, you go to the planning commission first for the
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The planning commission, and they would, yes.
But if I can take that a step back, Mr. Mayor, had they not wanted to switch the uses with Track A to Track B, they wouldn't be here tonight. They would be moving dirt.
They'd gone to the planning commission, yeah.
They'd be moving forward, moving
If they didn't
dirt.
make the change, you're right. Okay, that's right, yeah. Okay, I got you, okay.
So it really has no disrespect here. So this, what we vote tonight, does not have anything to do with Pinion.
It has to do with the 250 homes and citizens that are going to live in the city of North Augusta.
Yeah.
And what are we providing for them? Do we want to provide the best emergency protection, closer access, use of the greenway? We're voting on the citizens in North Augusta.
But now, y'all are county people, correct? I mean, I'm not saying nothing against that, but how can we, as a city, tell what to do in the county? And maybe I'm just lost and ignorant.
Our representative, Kelly Mobley, and other people in county. Our representatives of the county council was Kelly Mobley and the council.
And maybe I'm being dense, but I don't, to me, that's, I mean, as I'm hearing both Tommy and Kelly say, that's done. I mean, that road, and the developer hasn't asked, the original developer, I guess, asked for it because that's what the comprehensive plan said. The new developer inherited that PD that includes that connection because that's what the original PD was approved for. So I guess, and excuse me for being dense, but if we decline it, that connection still, if we deny it, that connection still exists. If we approve it, that connection exists. And we don't have the ability to amend a previously approved PD. Am I correct in that? We can't amend a previously approved PD to remove it, can we?
Without the approval of the developer, you can't.
Okay. So if the developer came to us and said, hey, we don't, I don't want to. So the developer could request an subsequent amendment to remove that, and then we could make a decision on there. But again, that's not what's being asked for right now. We do not have an ordinance in front of us with that request on it.
But do the people from Pinion, do you understand what we're saying? When we vote something for it,
That's what Kelly was saying. They have
I
a
get that.
say, but it doesn't impact us.
so, but like I said, if we vote for this, because, I mean, we'd really like for the project to go, but also we want to protect, even though they're county, yes.
Well, I mean, it seems like the covenant would be between Pinion Road and the developer.
Yeah,
If they own the
instead of
property, it
us.
wouldn't have
Is
anything to
that
do with the
right?
city.
Don't have anything to do with us.
All right, we got it.
So if he wasn't legally supposed to sell the property, then
And is the
That's on the
person that
developer.
sold it alive? I mean, okay.
We have no right to interpret the restrictive covenants. That's a private matter.
I just want to add a couple little comments. One thing somebody brought up about construction traffic and with the Knollwood thing, I can understand that. Is it possible to do that tie-in last? If, say, the neighborhoods developed out and that would help them with traffic?
I can speak to that from a logistical standpoint and phasing standpoint.
Yeah.
That connection doesn't occur until we're well within, I think it's phase 3 of the residential development.
So that could be 10, 12 years from now, or however long.
I think our projection is 5 to 6 years out right now.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a number, specific number,
Right.
which that you hit a trip count that generates that connection. But it's not in the initial phase.
All right. The only other thing I wanted to make a comment on, folks, is, you know, we hear this a lot, and the people from Knollwood, I guarantee you, when Green Forest was tied into 5-notch, they were probably in the council chamber saying the same thing. It's not used as a cut-through road. Nobody is getting off 5-notch. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but I don't know of anybody that's like, here, let me cut through 5-notch to get to Pisgah. You know, there's a red light there. There's no stop signs. The one thing that keeps our traffic count low on our major roads is the fact that almost our entire city is connected. I wish my neighborhood had connectivity. I'm in one of those neighborhoods that's a dead end, and honestly, I can't stand it. Other than the Rapids, Savannah, Barony, and River North, I think everywhere in the city is connected. You can go from point A to point B anywhere within the city limits of North Augusta. I think it's a good thing. You know, I can understand, you know, some of y'all's things, but the other thing too, I mean, for the fire rating, but again, I know we're not voting on that. That was just my thoughts on some of the stuff I heard. So, I mean, whether we vote for it or against it, it's still got to happen.
All right, so Eric, yours coming. Dave, anything you want to share before, okay, Ms. Pat, you got any other comments? Okay, Mike, go ahead. What you got?
The only thing I would like to add is of all of that that's being said, I would like us to consider making it conditional that we increase the buffer.
Well, I was going to ask Tommy, how do I know on a planning commission we added, how do we do that tonight? Or how does that work? Do that for the second reading, or how does that work?
You could make the motion to put a specific type buffer there, and a type D is the most intense buffer that we have, and if that's what you're looking at.
Can you explain?
There's 4 different classes of buffers,
Right,
A,
yeah.
B, C, and D.
What would a D include?
And I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, except it's 40 feet in width.
But that's the most restrictive buffer.
And it has the most dense planting in it.
Then,
now, you know, they're typically, we may have, we usually require a buffer between multifamily and single family anyway.
Which would be 25 though by code, right?
I think.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's whichever one you want.
Can we ask the developer what state, which one of y'all? I mean, I guess you don't have that design part yet, do you?
No, that's what I was going to say. I'd really like to consult with our engineer just to make sure. I'd have no problem agreeing to, and let's determine what buffer's the best fit. 40 foot, or is it, I don't know what that dimension looks like on the site plan right now. I'd be glad to incorporate a buffer. I would like to know more specifics of how that impacts the plan, but we don't have any problem incorporating one as long as it, it works within the confines of the property.
So when I ask this motion to amend, do I need to say type D? Or just say barrier and then?
Or unless you wanted to wait and do it after Bobby does his investigation and come back and do it at second reading.
Second reading?
Tommy, well.
That'd be 2 readings, isn't
Yes.
There could be a position taken that it's a little bit more of a material change, and you can't do that on final reading. So I think if we're going to do it, we need to do it tonight.
But one question, Mayor, before you do that, for our little county friends, because we don't want to think we're not listening. We see you concerned. So Kelly, this is for you. So they need to go to their county representatives like Kelly Mobley to help your problem. We'll do it again.
He said the Court of Commons of Pleas. Okay. Is he pulling up the type D? No, with citizen comments ended now, I'm sorry. Okay, while he's doing that, David, any final comments from you? Jen?
I guess I would just say, I feel like with this scenario, since it was a planned development back in 2006, I just kind of want the citizens that are here to know that if more of this had been brought to our attention, I think at this point, I might not talk for all of council, but I think we would be reconsidering the type of development that it is. I mean, I'm certainly for more single-foot housing and things like that. So it just seems like our hands are a little bit tied at this point. And so trying to look at just the facts for tonight and what we can vote on for tonight is kind of where my mindset is. But I do appreciate all y'all's comments. And
I just want to say, I want to thank each of you because what each of you did, Laurie, CJ, Jeff, Paul, Gene, y'all all gave very good information, good compelling information. You just didn't get up here and say, oh, I don't want it. You gave good information and reasoning, and I thank you for that. And we did want to hear that. So you got something?
Yes, sir. Anytime you're ready.
We're ready for you.
All right. A type C would be 20 feet in width. Well, let me start at the top. Type A is 8 feet, and you get a tree every large tree every 60 feet. You can put in small trees, and then you have to have some bushes in there too. The B is 15 feet in width, one large tree per 50 feet, and one small tree per 50 feet, and a heavier, dense vegetation in there. C is 20 feet wide. It's a large tree every 40 feet, a small tree every 50 feet, and more plantings than before. And then a D is 40 feet. It's one large tree per 40 feet, one small tree per 40 feet, and has a even higher density of bushes in there, but that can be reduced to 20 feet if a 6-foot high berm or decorative masonry wall is included.
I mean, if we amended it to the D, they could still come back and appeal to say, hey, we've done our study, we need to ask that we go to a C. Is that possible?
Only if you allow that by ordinance. If you say it's a D, then it's a D.
Okay.
If council gives me that direction. If you said it could be a C or greater, depending on the vegetation needed, that would give me some wiggle room to work with.
That would be the way to go.
Yeah.
I'd be good with that, because just getting a crash course in the buffer types, I didn't know there were that many.
Yeah.
We'd be okay with the C or greater, because I can't really speak to what that back elevation looks like right now without knowing the.
Okay.
A lot of them
Very
back in
good.
the wetlands anyway.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, all right, so I'm going to make an amendment to the motion. I need to read the whole thing again? I need to read the whole motion out again? No. Okay, make amendment to the motion to approve with the condition of type C buffer or higher, as well as on the development program, page 2 of the ordinance, parcel C and parcel D should read single-family detached residential. Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
You made the motion, I'll second it, correct?
Who first it?
You did.
I did.
You said make a motion.
I know, I was testing you. we're going to, the motion is to give the the plan director the flexibility to go through buffer C or higher based on the planning department. So I made the motion. There's a second, then Mr. Toole. Okay. All in favor?
Of the amendment.
Of the amendment. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay. I don't have to read the motion. Okay. Now, if no further discussion, we ask for a vote in favor of the ordinance. As amended. All in favor, ordinance as amended, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Very good. Whew, good one. We're just skipping along tonight, ain't you? Okay, new business, item 9, polling.
I'd say, did you all need to take a comfort break before you go to the next item?
Can we do that? Do I have to do it? Well, we got one. We are going to take a 2-minute recess to use the restroom, I'm sorry. All right, we're back in order. We're moving new business. Item 9, public safety, ordinance number 2023-13. Ordinance establishing a procedure for the provision of record service by commercial record and towing businesses within city limits. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Ms. McCauley, is there a second? Mr. Presnell, thank you. Anything you'd like to share about this, Ms. Clifford?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. The staff and public safety took the feedback that we got from council and also from the record service operators about some of their concerns about the ordinance as it was written. And so ultimately, we came back here to council with this ordinance in its current form, which essentially, the big changes there move us into a call-to-call model as opposed to the week-to-week model. That's at the request of public safety, and I'm sure Lieutenant Sadler and Chief Thomas can talk more in depth and more intelligently than I can about their call ratio, but ultimately that would put us in compliance with state law, not the call-to-call piece, but being within an ordinance, and also puts us in line with the way that other municipalities and counties in the CSRA and across the state do business. And so ultimately, we've made some allowances for vacation time. There was a concern that if a record company did not respond to X number of calls, they would be removed from the list because they were taking vacation if they were a small business. That's been amended and updated to reflect that. And so ultimately what you have before you is largely the guts of the ones you had last time, which includes the ability for us to use the state model for inspection of the vehicle, so our public safety officers aren't going to have to be out there checking out tow trucks. As long as they're coming to us with the state certification, then they are free to operate. And there are some other aspects in there, but I would tell you what will probably be the most talked about aspect of this really is the call-to-call versus the week-to-week. And I'd also like to highlight for the council, and I will defer to the city attorney if I get this wrong, which is, the previous model of the week-to-week had an arbitrary cap set by council, which is not legally defensible. And so ultimately, if there is guidance from the council to move to a week-to-week model, which is not what's currently in the drafted ordinance, there would not be a cap. And so ultimately, if you had 10 or 12 record companies come forward, then they would each be allowed to have a week, and so that might further thin out the current arrangement that we have. But I will turn over any additional comments, if you'll allow me to Chief Thomas and Lieutenant Sadler about any kind of the substantive changes in what's before you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. As I said before, the call-by-call is what the stance is of public safety. It's uniform. It's across the county. Every agency we have in the county currently is under that type of ordinance, as well as the city. So that works for us. As Mr. Clifford mentioned, we work with the city attorney pretty closely about this, and he agrees that obviously this is the ordinance in front of you. But the one big thing for us is the transparency, and I've talked a lot about that because the way we've done business in the past kind of casts a shadow on public safety. I don't want it to be a bias type of thing. We need to be out of this thing completely. This policy allows us to do that and protect ourselves from criticism about who we put on, how we put on, and the transparency is what we need to do once and for all. So that's the gist of it. Lieutenant Sadler's here, who's worked on this, can answer any questions, or if I can, I'll be glad to. And I know the city attorney may have some feedback as well.
I have one quick question. Have we had an issue with the week-to-week, or has it worked?
It has certainly worked. I think from the legally defensible position, we've got to get away from a limited number of businesses. Now, when you do that, staying on a week-to-week rotation, let's just pick the arbitrary number of 15. If you have 15 services on that week-to-week, each service is going to get 3 weeks a year. It's not going to be financially worth it to a lot of those companies to be on our list. Call-to-call is the most fair way to do that. although it'll be put a burden on the wrecker services because they'll be, they could be on call multiple nights in a row, and then they could go multiple nights without a call, just depending on how often we have to use them.
But wouldn't the numbers end up the same at the end anyway? Let's say there's 10 record companies that qualify, if we're saying, oh, they only get 3 weeks, but wouldn't the number of tows basically remain the same?
Over a long period of time, they probably do equal out, but in the short term, say for a year, you may be the unlucky guy, service that only gets 4 or 5 tows the week you're on, and then there could be some weeks where a company would get as many as 20.
But my question, Vern, and after talking with some of the record drivers, and I will say this, some of our record drivers do not own paint and body shops, which I'm sure that's where your money comes in. They just own a record service. But I've got a little concern, and I guess I didn't think about this, because my brother's a doctor. And if he had to be on call 24/7, 365 days a year, he could never go nowhere unless he paid or did something to get somebody to take his calls. And that's what worries me about these young men that, I don't see how I know it said we might give them, 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
But
Depending on the number of records that we
but I really feel we need to go week by week with this, because I just feel like as a small business person, but if I had to pay somebody to be on call for us 24/7, and I presume on call, y'all can tell me, if you're a nurse and you on call, you time and a half. You're not your regular pay salary. But I really feel, and I've talked to each individual council, Kelly, Chief Thomas, in my heart, I feel like the week by week, let's say Paul, he's this week, next week, Mr. Savage, next week, so-and-so. And that way they do have, I know July 4th through July 11th, I've got to be in town. That's my week. Where if I don't know, will I get a call that week or will I not get a call? I love that opening up to other record companies. I do. I've never liked, we limit it to 6 companies. I never have liked that. But I like that now that if they qualify, if they meet the criteria. But I also think maybe we need to change week to week so they can have a family life and not pay an arm and leg for somebody on call.
And the week-to-week call is why our wrecker group has been such a coveted spot. And what we tried to do, Pat, was balance it with, what are the needs that we have to serve for the city versus making it lucratively worth their while financially to be on it. And like I said, it's, we're at 5 right now because we had one that came off, and I can foresee us going up to 12 or 15 right as soon as it's made known that.
Well, that's why I was going to ask you, have you?
Procedure, you can get on the list, and like I said, it'll cut it down significantly. Right now, we've got 5, that's 10 weeks a year.
Yeah, well, that's why, have you heard other records that say once this passes, hey, we're going to jump on board?
Sure, oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think that's only fair, but like I said, when I think about my life and like I said, I know we're trying to go with other cities, but as we all sit up and say, there's nothing like North Augusta. We're different because we try to look out for everybody. That's all I have to say.
And I think I can speak, and if Chief will stop me if I'm speaking out of turn. Week to week is not really a big issue with us per se. The transparency of taking it out of our hands, during this process, we were accused of a lot of things, and as long as we work within it and maybe not manage it, I think would be a win for us.
Any other questions for them before I open it up to citizen comments? All right, are there any citizen comments? this ordinance that we just read? Well, this gentleman in the green stepped up first. You'll be next. Yep. Come on. Sir, if you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brett Savage. I'm at 815 Tyler Avenue, and I'm an owner and operator at State Line Wrecker.
You came last time, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Today's session? Okay, I had your name, I didn't have Savage. That's what threw me. Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, Brett. Good to see you, sir.
I'm in favor to leave it the same. It's been this way for over 35 years.
Yep.
I've been in the wrecking industry for 30 years and on my own for 13 years. And it's what North Augusta has is a great system. You know when you're on call, and everybody responds to their calls, gets their calls, they're freed up, good to go till the next call. Y'all have a schedule, and y'all go by it, and public safety has a schedule, and them officers know when they're on shift. So it's kind of like, that's what we want to do. We want to know when we're working. We don't want to have to guess, are we going to get a call in 30 minutes or 3 hours from now? That really don't make good sense to me. I want to keep it the same. If we're going to change stuff, we need to, not saying it's anybody in here because there's great guys on the list, but I think they need to be DOT certified, they need to be drug tested, and that type thing. We definitely need to go up on the rates. We're 2.5 years behind on the rates. And why do we want to be like Aiken County and Edgefield County and Augusta-Richmond County and just go call for call and never know when you're going to get a call? When I'm on call for North Augusta, I bring in extra help, and I prepare for that week, and I handle it. And then if I can't, I get somebody to help me out. The only other thing that pretty much sums everything up.
Well,
I
Brett,
appreciate
thank
your time.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Come on down. That's okay. State your name and address for the record.
Benner, 1015 Edgefield Road, North Augusta, Benner Towing Service.
Yep.
My question, I like the week-to-week, but we've discussed that. The qualification criteria, who's coming up with that? I said I wasn't going to bring this up, but I am. It's got insurance qualifications here, minimum of $300,000 and all that. I have the federal guidelines right here where you have to have a minimum of $750,000, and if you carry motor vehicles, it has to be $1 million, which I carry. I know these fellas carry it. If we're going to do this, let's do it right and wipe out all the people who are these fly-by-night guys that are going to come in here. Let's have professionals do this. Let's do it by the rules. Let's do it like DOT. Like you said, drug testing, let's do the whole 9 yards. This is, you can have a copy of this for y'all to look at. That's the federal guidelines of $750,000. And I can show you, and the reason I know this, I own 3 companies. 3 weeks ago, I got notification because my one company didn't have the $1 million, and I had 30 days to get the $1 million insurance. Otherwise, my DOT number was going to be revoked. So if we're going to have criteria, let's follow it. And, the police department has done a great job. I want to say that, public safety. I like it's going to be an ordinance, takes them out of it, no pressure on them. Let's do some code enforcement. Let's check up on it, but let's follow the rules. Let's let these guys be DOT certified.
So you're saying item 4 and 5, those numbers are low?
Oh, yeah. They're low.
I mean, Britton, to give you
This right here was written 30 years ago. I saw this same thing, Highway Patrol, 30 years ago.
I carry $1 million just on my vans alone, and I'm not towing anything. I'm just, transporting equipment from back and forth. So I don't know how old that is too, because.
And I'm going to be honest with you. What this is going to do, if you follow DOT with the $1 million, to give you a prime example, I can take the truck I use for the city of North Augusta right now, put $300,000 on it. Cost me $1,900 a year. I can put $750,000 on it. Cost me $3,500 a year. I had to put $1 million on it, $19,000 a year. That's where the professionals come in. That's where you're going to get the service of professional towers. I know these guys all carry the same stuff I do. So if we're going to open this up, let's open it up, but let's, open up the professionals. Let's not, because you're going to have a bunch of fly-by-night people come in here and say, oh, I can tow. That's all I'm saying. If I got to pay it, they should have to pay it too. That's just fair. That's just a businessman talking business. And, I don't know what else to say about that. That's for y'all to discuss. But who's setting the criteria and who's going to do the inspections? That's all I want to know. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, Paul. Anybody else? Okay, council discussion.
Britton, I was just going to say.
I don't know how to respond to that answer, so somebody
Well, I mean,
jump in, chief or whatever, I don't know.
Well, from a business standpoint, he is correct with you setting the bar high. All of y'all know I'm an electrical contractor. How many times have I heard, I know a guy that can do it cheaper? Usually it's the guy working out of his pickup truck. He might be able to do the same job. He may not, but it's when you have a problem. And like I say, my vans are insured for $1 million just for my employees to ride around in. Some of these guys are just, the bare minimum insurance. So, of course, they can do a job cheaper than me. And so I don't disagree. And I think if they have to meet those guidelines, how many companies in town could do that? 6, 8? And then we don't have to worry about the number. Is that correct, Kelly? If we set the precedence of you have to be like this?
Well, we have to set the numbers at what is reasonable and required, not for the purpose of running anybody out of business. We do it because this is what's necessary, and then whoever is there, if they qualify, they go on the list, whether that's 3 people or 28 people. That's the way it
Right, and
works.
then that's what I was asking. That's what I know originally you said the issue is we limited it to, what was it, 6, Vern, something like that for many years, and now they wanted to open it up.
What we were doing before is 10 people might come and say they want to get on the list, and we said we're only putting 5 on the list.
Right.
That just won't fly.
But
if they meet the requirements, they go on the list.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So if we set the bar a little bit higher, maybe only 4, 5, 6 companies
Well,
can
again,
do that, and I don't have
again, what I'm saying, that's not a proper basis for setting the requirements.
to have them DOT certified.
We have to, we set the requirements based, and I don't know,
Highway patrols, a lot of what we had in this proposal, we pulled straight out of what the Highway Patrol in Aiken County does.
and I see that this does have some higher lists for A, B, and C things, so.
So we're using South Carolina Highway Patrol, not South Carolina Department of Transportation.
They're the same.
Same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, but why is he saying $1 million?
Highway Patrol is under the South Carolina Department of Public Safety.
I mean, I don't understand the numbers then. I mean, that's what I'm trying
We
to,
just
I'm
pulled-
trying to understand.
That's what their policy is. Those numbers is basically what Highway Patrol's policy is.
The numbers we have? Okay.
For this proposal.
Okay.
Is there,
Okay, thank you.
so I understand about the different coverages because I have to do the same thing. So when I get a certain contract that says you gotta have $1 million worth of coverage or you have 1.5 or whatever the project entails. So are we looking at this that the mentioned minimums he's saying, is that a minimum that is a more current minimum that may be listed here? Or am I misunderstanding?
I don't know when Highway Patrol updated their policy last. I'm going to assume that someone does it on a fairly regular basis. But like I said, we went to different agencies and pulled Highway Patrol. They're the recognized experts
Okay.
in highway traffic control and so forth.
Well, being a small business person, yes, that makes a big difference because I do contracts and, I want everybody to have the same general liability policy that I have to cover because it costs me X amount of dollars, so I can totally understand that. So I guess what I would ask is maybe can we research and make sure that we are requiring a good standard minimum on all these, not necessarily for any other reason, but to just make sure we're meeting insurance companies' minimum requirements. Because even though I've done contracts where it may say the minimum, it may say 300,000, I can go to the the county or the customer would say, well, the minimum might be 300, but this contract requires $1 million. So can we legally do that as well? And should we do that? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak on what the requirements are. We just need to be consistent.
Motor carrier safety, I have it right here. It's the federal guidelines.
Is that on anything, does it give,
Go to the FMCSA website. You have to, any company, any motor carrier, any trucking company, it doesn't matter what you haul, has to have a minimum of 750,000. You haul automobiles in the towing, auto hauling industry, anything, you have to carry a minimum of 1 million. That is a federal guideline.
all right, well, I can't speak to you on that. I do not know.
Is that a guideline or a statute?
That's a federal statute. That is law.
You said guideline, so is it guideline or statute?
It's a statute, sorry. It's law. We have to follow it. We have to follow that.
And I understand exactly what he's saying, because when I have subcontractors, the state requires a certain amount of insurance for them. But my insurance company also requires a higher level. So then I have to require the higher level because my insurance company requires me to have the higher level for any subcontractor that works for me. So I can understand that the numbers can be, different, even though it's a minimum for the state. But my insurance companies also require me to have a higher number. So I have to deal with that all the time. So this may be a similar situation. I'm not familiar with this guideline he's talking about or whatever, but I totally understand.
I just want it to be fair. If we gotta pay it, they all should.
Well, I mean, what I'm reading here, this does say, under certain circumstances, it gives the $750,000. I don't see where it says anything about $1 million. Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, and we need to dig into it more to make sure that it applies to what we're asking to be told.
Kelly, if you don't mind, I'll like that as well, that I'm looking at the South Carolina statute right now, section 56-5-7024 or 25. Record service continually shall carry and show proof of insurance against loss resulting from liability imposed by law for bodily injury, death, or damage to property caused by the maintenance or use of a tow truck or occurring on the business premises of a record service in the amount not less than $300,000 for a standard record, which is, I believe, reflected in our ordinance, $750,000 for a heavy-duty wrecker, which is also in our ordinance for Class C, $25,000 for hook cargo insurance light duty, and $50,000 for hook cargo insurance heavy duty. So I believe the ordinance as crafted is in compliance with South Carolina law.
That's not what I asked. When I came up there, I asked, what guidelines are we gonna follow? Are we gonna follow something that the state's making up? Or are we gonna follow?
Well, I think what he just told you is we're looking to do the state, what the state of South Carolina requires.
Any other council discussion?
Well,
Any comments?
Can I amend that instead of call to call, week to week?
Well, yeah, anything you want. Write it down, so let me know what you're trying
Well,
to do.
I make a motion that we change it from call to week to week.
I'll second.
Okay, let me say, call to
To week.
week to week, and that's an amendment. And we had a first by Ms. Carpenter, and a second by, was it Mr. McGee or Presnell? Presnell, okay. Okay, so we've got amendment to the ordinance to go from call to call to week. First and a second already, so all in favor, raise your hand. And that is 5-2, so that passes. And 5 in favor, 2 against, and then, yeah. All right, then based on the amendment to the motion that we just approved, we'll now be voting again. All in favor? Do I have to do it again?
Yeah, this is the motion
Yeah.
With
With that amendment, with the amendment.
With the
ordinance as amended.
The amendments by the ordinance. So all in favor of the ordinance as amended, raise your hand. So we'll keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 4 yes, 3 no. You got that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see, we're down to the last one here. Item 10, Public Service Resolution Number 2023-20, authorize the City of North Augusta to enter into a contract with Davis and Floyd. You have a motion to approve this resolution? Mr. Presnell, is there a second? Ms. McCauley, thank you. Anything you want to share about this, Mr. Clifford?
This is really a proposal that was drafted by Rachel and James Sutton for a draw of just under $200,000 for Department of Energy settlement money to be used for engineering services for the design of a transfer station. And so ultimately this will get the ball rolling for us. We've got, as a reminder for the council, 3 separate lines within the Department of Energy settlement money, one for cyber infrastructure, one for the lock and dam, and one for the transfer station. And there's a $2 million set aside from the Department of Energy money for this transfer station. And so Rachel and James did a great job of researching through a number of different firms that do transfer station work and did a request for qualifications, and Davis and Floyd was the selected vendor. And so we're requesting the ability to move forward with a contract for them for design services for our transfer station, which will be co-located with the MRF over by the Operations Center.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any citizen comments? Okay. Any council discussion? No amendments, right? Okay. Not hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, we're back at it again. Great. Okay, Ms. Cliff, any administrative reports?
Mr. Mayor, I regret to inform you that I lost my gold medal status as a homemade raft winner, and I fell to bronze, but I look forward to hopefully recapturing my title next year.
You lost to a boat called the Titanic, too.
All right, I've got a couple comments I want to make, so before we got to open. Are there any, okay, so we're at citizen comments, so is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk about anything to council that's not on the agenda? Okay, so from council, any comments from anybody before I?
I just was going to announce to everybody the Big Run 5K that we've been doing. This is our 6th annual event at SRP Park on Wednesday. We will have Center Street closed from 5 to 7 p.m. again. So if y'all hear any complaints, you can send them my way. But we're up to almost 500 people registered. So it'll be a big event. So that's Wednesday night.
Okay, I just wanted to just let everybody know that we had a great Down on the River event. It was fantastic, and there's been nothing but very positive on social media and people calling all of us. And as council, we get a lot of credit for that, and that's the vision and the goal. But the reality is we don't make it happen, and the folks who make it happen are the teammates, our employees in North Augusta. So I just wanted to publicly read these folks out. Parks and Recreation Department, Randy DeToe did yeoman work, Derek Boyd, yeoman work, Carl Waldhauer, amazing, Lee Jones, Brandon Nicholson, Ron Matthews, Josh Logan, Ben Bartley, Tori Roberts, Amber Porter, Susan Reynolds, Tanya Bidwell. We had Kevin Whaley in our IT department. We had Kayla Ferguson in the HR department. We had Rachel Moody. We had Jim Clifford. We had Jamie Paul. Plan Department, we had Paris Felder, Phyllis Garvin, Stacy Reese. In Public Safety, we had Officer Jones, Officer Pierce, Officer Drayton, Lieutenant Sadler. Our Finance Department, we had Linda Williamson. Streets and Drainage, we had Jeff Davis, Francisco Cruz, Paul Pinckney. It really took this whole community to come together, the citizens, the city to come together to put this event on for the citizens. So on behalf of City Council, for Mayor, I wanted to publicly get on record that as council, we thank all of the employees that participated, that made it happen, because it wouldn't have happened without them. And we live in a great community, and I do disagree with the young lady that, I won't accept the narrative that we have lost our hometown field. It's just not true. All you have to do is show up at the things like Friday and Saturday night, and you realize we live in a small town because of what we're doing. So that's something I'm proud of. We are for North Augusta. So with that, we stand adjourned.